As darkness falls upon Grotuville, it's time once again for Gratu Orlov After Dark. Friday night after dark, Friday night, a go-go, our psychedelic freak-out underground party that we have each Friday night, where we discuss comic books and everything your birthing people threw away. My birthing person never threw away any of my stuff, but I understand that that is a common problem. So here we're dedicated to pop culture of the past. And let's see, we got Gotham City Comics here. So hello, Gotham City Comics. So tonight we should have some special guests and all kinds of fun stuff. We're coming to you live through the Gratu Orlov Inspirational Network here through StreamYard, which gives you 20 free hours a month. And I've already used about 6 of them. So tonight we're going to, Charlton 66 is here. Let's see. Is the music audible or is it just a distraction? Let's see. Zombo Orloff is here. Oh, let me put up an invite in the chat, and then people can come on and talk. Hold on a second. Oh, there's Dr. Soulrage coming in. So, tell me in the chat, should I just turn the music off? Is it even? Oh, I didn't even put it in the thing. Because the music seems important, but I don't know if the little tiny microphone on this computer picks it up or not. Or if it, let me know what it sounds like. Try to do a couple of little test streams this afternoon, but so we've got Dr. Silverage, we've got Charlton 66. If you Charlton or Dr. Silverage, if you want to click that link in on your phone or computer, it'll put you down below, and then I can bring you up. I'm starting to master this stupid StreamYard program. I thought it would be really complicated, and even an idiot like me can figure it out. So, yeah, birthing people, they throw away a lot of stuff. Let's see. Oh, there's Dr. Silverage. I probably should turn this music down a little bit. Let's see. Let's bring him on. Hey, Dr. Silverage.
Hey, there we go.
Cool.
I got it to work.
Yeah. Wow, you've got an amazing setup behind you.
Yeah, just a little closet here. There we go. I got it to work.
I think we're getting a little bit of a echo, but that's all right. Do you have like any earbuds or headphones that you could plug into your computer?
I don't have any headsets.
Yeah, I don't either. But I think that's what causes the echo. So what's I'm still trying to master this. So what else? So what have you been up to? You have like any earbuds or headphones that you can plug into your computer? You have any new acquisitions?
I don't have any headsets.
Yeah, I don't either, but I think that's what causes the echo. So what's I'm still trying to master this. So what else? What have you been up to?
Oh, not much. Just there. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine now. We got rid of the echo. Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I think I still had the YouTube up, so I just got out of the YouTube. Now I'm on just the StreamYard. So no, I haven't been doing too much.
I think
just actually trying to catch up on a lot of people's videos. I think everybody knows my health situation from last December. So I've been trying to just heal up and try and catch up on things and get back to normal. So get back to what we all love to do, collect comics and all kinds of pop culture stuff.
Yeah, I've always I love that you've got the Monster Times displayed prominently and behind you. That
Did
really
that
was
for
something.
you?
Yeah, that's something that really changed my life. I see Movie World Comics is saying lately the Submariner theme song from Marvel Superheroes show has been stuck in his head. Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw the Monster Times. We were on a trip up to Canada and we stopped into this little coffee shop. They had like a little stationary card shop, magazine shop, and it was issue number 26 and it had Destroy All Monsters on the cover. I had never heard of the movie before. I knew of Godzilla. And I saw all these other monsters that I never heard of before. And I'm like, holy mackerel, this opened up a whole new door for me with Godzilla and all that stuff. I'm still hunting that issue down. I don't have it in my collection yet, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, the Monster Times is something that's kind of hard to find because not many stores, comic stores, have it. About this time last year, I was trying to fill in holes in my collection from mycomicshop.com. But yeah, it's a magazine that has to be preserved just right because if not, it just kind of falls apart because it's a newspaper. And I didn't realize until years later that it was the exact format of the Rolling Stone, the original Rolling Stone, where it is on the stand. It's the size of a magazine that it unfolds, and then you read it, and it's a large size. So it's yeah. I think that the one that really struck me was the one with Theater of Blood, the Vincent Price movie on the cover, and with the skull with two knives going into both knife going into each socket and blood coming down. And I didn't even dare ask my mother if I could buy that because I would always have to ask her if I could buy a monster magazine, but if there's any injury to eyes, it would be an immediate no. And something like that would have just made her angry. I'm sorry, I should say my birthing person. Yeah, my birthing person did not like. That's the new thing, calling them birthing people. So I got to remember that. But yeah, the Monster Times was great, and Castle of Frankenstein was great, and so there's a lot of channels about comic books, but not as many about monster magazines. Let's see, Charlton 66 is, what is he saying? And Doc Savage books, yes. And then Movie World says that's a cool Space Ghost slideshow in the background.
I love those Hanna-Barbera cartoons, the superhero cartoons, man. That's what opened the door for comics for me. Was the 66, 67 years watching Saturday morning cartoons. I knew about superheroes before I read any comic books. My folks just happened to see that I liked those. I happened to be sick one night, and my father went to the Rexall drugstore, came home, dropped a couple of comic books on my lap, and said, "Here you go," and fell in love with them. Been in love with them ever since. I think I
Yeah,
was probably 6 or 7 at the time.
yeah, my birthing person, when I was sick in elementary school, she would bring comic books home to me, and she had just, I think she picked them up randomly, but she had some luck going for her because she picked out Hulk 181, which is the first appearance of Wolverine. I think it's 181 where he's just in the very, it's the one that's not as valuable as the one where he's on the cover. And she picked up Man Thing #1, and I think Amazing Spider-Man 128, and she just had good taste in picking out comics. She
Nothing
had no
wrong with
idea what they
those.
were. What's that?
There's nothing wrong with those.
Yeah. So let's see. How long have you been doing YouTube?
I think it's been about 4 years, 5 years, maybe. I think my memory's not all that great, but probably about that time. I got started in it because I just happened to be at work one day, and at lunchtime I was tooling around YouTube, looked up comic books. I saw a video by Captain Strangelife,
Yeah.
and I said, "Oh my gosh!" It was the one where he was going through his house, his basement, and showing everything. And I'm like, he's got stacks of comic books here and there and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because at the time that's kind of how my basement was laid out. I'm like, I could be this guy. Of course, I didn't have anywhere near the amount that he has, but
Yeah.
I said this was so fascinating. I said this is great, and I said I want to do that. And so he's responsible for Dr. Silver Age, and I always give him credit whenever I get the chance, because without him and seeing that video, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I guess he was the first guy. Maybe 10, 11 years ago. I guess he started everything. And then I don't know how long Silver Age Dave has been doing it. And um, Charlton 66, do you want to come on camera? You may not be ready to do that tonight, but if you want to, you could. I'm not sure how long Charlton 66 has been doing it. I like when people, let's see what he's saying here. I became a fan of the Metal Men because my birthing person brought me 2 issues. Number 54, like Iron Man, my favorite character. Yeah, that's cool. Metal Men was so wonderful because it had a whimsical nature to it. The Metal Men, the and I forgot about that. I was talking to I was I guess I was talking to Graphic Man the other night, and Charlton 66, and talking about DC, the characters. Yeah, because we were talking about the Legion of Superheroes, and the Legion of Superheroes and the Metal Men. Charlton 66 says not accessible at this point, but thanks for the invite. All right, that's cool. But you need to come on at some point. But anyway, so Metal Men, Doom Patrol, Legion of Superheroes were different from the other comics, and I thought they were just a lot of fun. And I'm probably leaving out something. Yeah, I also liked the Jerry Lewis and Bob Hope comics just because they had monsters in them. And, but yeah, I don't know what it was. If it was because my mom didn't want me to buy monster magazines that I became so fascinated with them, or
Well,
I wonder if I had been allowed to buy them just without any approval, would I have been that fascinated with them my whole life, and I think I would have, but they just.
I think every mother probably wants to protect their kid a little bit from, uh, you know, having nightmares watching horror movies or anything like that. So I think that's just a natural tendency for mothers or even fathers to want to do that. But
Well,
I
yeah.
think also, like you said, though, it tend to make us, well, what about it is so mysterious? Why don't they want me to watch it? And it kind of draws you in,
Well, she did the same thing with Dennis the Menace because he didn't speak with proper grammar, and she thought I would pick up his grammar because she was an ex-school teacher. And what else? I mean, the Three Stooges, because she thought I'd do all. I think a lot of mothers are against that. But,
yeah, Three Stooges were big in my house. But never once did I think of taking a saw to my brother's head.
Oh no! I mean, the type kids that do that are deranged, and they're going to probably do damage to their siblings for some other reason. They'll figure out some reason.
It was just, you understood. I mean, we just understood. It was just all slapstick. It was funny. It was meant to be funny.
So what? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in southern New Hampshire, little town called Rollinsford. Probably had about maybe 3,000 people in it. So I was born and raised there. Then got married when I was 26. Me and my wife, we moved across the town line to the next town over, South Berwick, Maine. That's where we live today. They're kind of like twin towns, So my mother used to walk us when we were in grade school in the summertime. There used to be a little store called the Snack Bar here in South Berwick, and it was like a luncheonette, stationery, candy, magazine store. It was the most magical place on earth, I'm telling you, because it had the biggest array of comic books that I'd ever seen through my childhood. And we would walk over here. It'd take about an hour. We'd walk over here. Ma would give us a quarter so I could get 2 12-cent comic books, still have a penny left over to get some penny candy, and it was just like, days when she said, well, why don't we go to the snack bar? Let's go. I'm ready, so it was a lot of fun. Just really, really enjoyed that stuff. So it's been part of my life. South Berwick has been part of my life all the way through, just as much as Rollinsford has. So it's kind of just been almost like the same town, So that's pretty much it. Pretty boring, actually, for pretty boring life, but that's okay. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, my dad was in the military, so we moved around a lot. But I remember getting comics at a lot of PXs, and they would, in some cases, they display the comics out like magazines. There would be a whole wall of magazines. Then maybe a third of it was comic books, and they were all displayed where you can see the full covers, at least the ones in the front row, but not on spinner racks. And so it was. I've lived all over the place. I mean, San Antonio was where I was born. But do you still buy any comics today? New comics coming out?
I buy a handful of the new stuff. There's nothing really that grabs me. I buy the Immortal Hulk because Hulk is my guy. It's okay. It's still not quite the Hulk that I grew up with. I liked the Savage Hulk. Never liked the Professor Hulk. I just like the Savage Hulk. That's what I grew up with. John Buscema artwork. That's what I grew up with. That's what I like. But I do collect that. Once in a while, I'll buy the Avengers just to see what they're up to. I'll buy Justice League, just again because Justice League was one of my favorite DC comics. I used to buy Astro City, one of the independents, but they no longer make that, I guess. I'm buying the Berserker, that one by Keanu Reeves. He's involved with that. I'm buying that, and that's pretty interesting. And a couple other independent ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. But that's about it for new stuff. For the most part, I'm trying to collect fill in stuff from the 70s, like fill in my Invaders. I think I only need like 3 more issues to finish that run, and just stuff like that from the 70s. The stuff that I need from the Silver Age is now getting down to the point where it's the real pricey stuff. So that's kind of few and far between, but still once in a while you find a good deal and pick it up. So, but eBay is pretty much my go-to right now. Although a new comic store just opened up real close to me, about 10 minutes away. So, and they have like a 50-cent bin and dollar bins, which my other normal LCS no longer has. So it's like, oh, I'm diving into that, and I'm going to be going there tomorrow and check it out. So I'm really anxious to get into that and see what he's got. I did spend some money there the other day and picked up quite a few books from there. I went through like 3 of their 50-cent bins and picked up like $10-15 worth of stuff. So I mean, it just filler stuff, nothing, no hidden gems or anything like that, but it's just filler stuff. Hawk World, Hawkman, some other stuff like that from the 70s, couple of stuff from the late 80s, stuff like that, just filler stuff that I want to kind of fill out. Now, you don't buy any of the new stuff, right? You said?
I look, and if something interests me, like there were a few comics that I didn't buy them, but I pulled them to get later at the shop that I go like 3 days a week and work their back issues, and but it's like old stuff reprinted. Like they had apparently the Marvel had some sale for a deal, comic stores where they would sell their reprint comics real cheap. And let's see, so like they had like they're they have the dollar ones that are, I think, called True Believers, that reprint comics. Yeah. But they also have something that's about $7 and it reprints like 4 comics. It's thicker. And I got one of Night Nurse that I guess reprints probably the whole run of the early 70s Night Nurse, and just because I thought that was odd that existed. And
it's highly sought after.
Yeah, and but mainly I'm looking in the back issue bins. Now I hear the Immortal Hulk is great. People are telling me that it was a lot better and that it's not as good as it was. Looking at it, looks interesting. It looks like the Thing. Am I right? The movie, The Thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, exactly.
It's real. All kinds of weird transformations.
Yeah, he's kind of like, I don't know, amorphic. It's not like the solid Hulk, although he's starting to change back into that style of Hulk. So we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, he was kind of like a jellyfish Hulk or something. I don't know. I was just trying to make it through there, hoping they get to a version of the Hulk that I like.
Yeah. Well, see, I then Astro City, I always saw that and it looked beautiful. But it was something I never picked up, even though it looked, because I guess I figured I wouldn't be able to I wasn't there from the beginning. The same thing with that comic Nexus. I always saw it and it was beautiful looking, but I only picked up a few issues because I guess I just figured I wasn't there from issue one. I don't know exactly why, but yeah, Astro City were those Alex Ross covers? I don't remember.
Yeah, a lot of Alex Ross covers. Yeah. In fact, he did some of the interior work on some of them too. They jumped around. I think it wound up at DC under one of their little imprint things like Wildstorm or something like that. But it was very good. I really liked it because it was creating a whole different world, and they went through their phases of Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and it was very well done. I mean, it was really good, and there was a continuity to it, and they would refer back to this guy, even though you hadn't seen this person yet. They would refer back, and then eventually they would tell you the story of them, and so it was very good. I really enjoyed the writing on it, and the artwork was phenomenal. So if you ever get a chance to fill in that series, fill in those issues, I would say go for it because it really is entertaining.
Or maybe I should get like book, editions in book form.
Yeah, I don't know if they do a trade paperback on those or not. They probably do. They do it for everything.
The thing about Space Ghost, you're talking about a character that they don't really explain initially. Space Ghost, they may have explained later in comics or something, but as far as I knew, there was just he existed, and you never really had an origin story for him or any of those characters in that era.
Yeah, I bought the what was it, DC that did it? I bought the 6-issue thing, and yeah, they explained it, but in my mind, that was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't really hold that as canon for me.
Right.
To me, it doesn't have anything to do with the cartoon. Same way Space Ghost Coast to Coast has nothing to do with the 66, 67 cartoon series for me. That stands alone. You know,
I hated that Cartoon Network or whatever it was, Coast to Coast thing. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, pathetic. I was never a fan of that. Never a fan. But all those other ones, My Tour, Birdman. I really loved Birdman. All those ones. Young Samson, Shazam, all those. They were. That was my Saturday morning, man. That was just such a wonderful, magical time. It was a sacred time when you were a kid. Saturday mornings were just about having cereal, sitting down, and just watching those characters bring it on.
Let's see. Charlton 66 says, "Love the Silver Agent and the Confessor from Astro City."
Yeah.
Now let's see what Captain Strangelove says here. Had absolutely no idea this was going to be on. Came across it by accident. Been working hard in the heat today. Just relax with a beer, and here's Gratu and Doc Silverage. Let's see. Movie World says, "There's an Astro City trade paperback. That's how I read it. I don't think there's one for Nexus, though." And Charlton says, Herculoids was a big fave. Yeah, that was great.
Hercules. I loved the Rock Ape. That was my favorite character. And when they come out with the action figures, I should have bought it, and I wanted to buy it, but I just didn't have the money at the time. And now those things are big money, and I'll never be able to afford it. But that was such a cool thing. I'm like, oh, I really wanted that. But I just got a Birdman one, like a Mego.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a Mego style.
Oh, is that? Wow.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. I just happened to come across it on Amazon. There's some guy that makes different ones like that. And when I saw Birdman, I'm like, oh, that's mine. Before anybody else gets it, that's mine. So, I mean, but anything like that to do with those Hanna-Barbera cartoon characters, I really, if it's reasonable, I'll try and pick it up because I just, that was such a special time in my childhood. That anything like that, just, it gives you such a special feeling, you know?
And then Johnny Quest, of course.
Yeah.
And which was prime time. That wasn't Saturday morning. I mean, later they put it on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And then the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as good as the comic, but it had a great feel to it.
Yep. Spider-Man.
And what now?
The Spider-Man one was on there too. Yeah. Even though it wasn't done by Hanna-Barbera, but Spider-Man was on the same time as Fantastic Four. Right. That whole group.
And then, yeah, and then even the DC superheroes were cool too. The music was amazing. I thought the theme songs and the Superman, Batman, and then Aquaman. I love that.
Yeah.
And then I've been on this kick for the last couple of months, wanting to get a complete set of the Marvel superheroes cartoons, but
I have a couple of those on the what do they call them, the clamshell ones that they have. I have like 3 or 4 of them that way, and I have some other ones on just regular VHS that a friend of mine had dubbed for me. But I'd love for them to come out on DVD, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't know why, but for some reason they won't.
Yeah, it's odd. I don't know. Marvel is owned by Disney, and but you would think those would show up on Disney Plus or somewhere. For years, people rumored they'd come out on DVD, and then Blu-ray came along, and it can't be music rights. They just use, for the most part, music from a library. And what else? I don't really understand it. The animation is good.
The only thing I'm thinking and hoping is the reason that they're holding off is that they're remastering them or what do you want to call them? Recoloring them to bring them up to perfect coloring or whatever. That's the only thing I can think of, or that's what I'm hoping they're doing, and that might be the reason that they haven't released them yet. But because as soon as they do, I'm gonna be there. Here's my money.
They were released in England, like the complete sets, and then I think there's someone on eBay selling the complete run of each hero on 2 discs for $15. So if you get all 5, it's $75, and I assume he's mastering them from the British sets. So yeah, then it just I just really, there's just something about just listening to the sound. It's like old radio shows. The John Vernon is Iron Man, and yeah, it's really
they had those voices. It was just like voices, just like you would hear on those old radio shows.
Yeah. So then,
but one of the cartoons, we were talking about cartoons. One of the ones that he always gets forgotten, but for one reason or another, it was one of my favorites. Was one called Super President.
I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah, I for whatever reason I remembered that. I have like 3 or 4 episodes on VHS, but I just liked it. I don't know why, because a lot of people pan it.
Well, it's such an amazing concept. There are episodes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I figured out a way to record from YouTube, which, much to the consternation of my wife, I just have because we have a Roku box, and then I have it has an HDMI cable coming out of it to plug into a modern TV, but I have this little box that converts HDMI to the old-fashioned RCA plugs, and then I feed that into a DVD recorder that they don't want you to have anymore. They stopped selling them in the US. You can only get them in Japan, and mine worked for years, and then when it had trouble about a year ago, I bought one just like the same brand, old store stock, or maybe slightly used from eBay, and it's been working fine. But so I record right from eBay, I'm sorry, right from YouTube, just like I'm recording VHS. I mean, it degrades the quality a little bit, but I'm used to watching, 27-inch, lo-fi television with tube television, so it still looks pretty amazing to me. But I just think that if you don't record the amazing stuff that's on YouTube, it'll go away and it'll just disappear. I mean, because things have. Let's see. There's a way. Someone was showing me a way I can show my screen. Let me see if I can do this. Because someone was saying, let's see, that's not share, but in other words, where I could show my computer screen and then I could show you some cool things that are on YouTube. But there's oh boy, I wish Graphic Man was in the audience. He could remind me where it is. Let's see. I really just learned this whole StreamYard program yesterday, just on the fly. Camera, microphone, share, invite, leave studio. No. Well, I figured that I needed to learn this because it's although it doesn't. I don't think. Can you hear the music that's playing behind me at all? I don't think it picks it up.
No, I can't hear
it. I don't think this. Yeah, I don't think this microphone is up to it. Let's see. Let's see. Does anyone in the chat room know how to do? Let's see. Christopher Schneider says 60s pop culture in general was the best, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was catering to the majority of the population were kids at that time because of the baby boom. Oh man, how do I do that?
There were just so many good TV shows, not only cartoons but good TV shows. Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, The Invaders, Wild Wild West.
Right.
All those great shows, man. Love that.
Yeah, and they had theme songs then. TV shows now don't have theme songs.
No.
They just start and maybe they'll flash the title up, but they don't want to waste time because they have more time now for commercials.
Yeah. The other thing that I noticed they don't have anymore is they don't have live kid shows. Like we used to have Bozo the Clown. We used to have Major Mud. Captain Kangaroo. Those type of shows, and they would show cartoons and stuff like that. I don't see that anymore.
Yeah, there was a local one in the Dallas-Fort Worth area before we moved here that everyone loved in the 60s named Icky Twerp, and he ran the Three Stooges and Little Rascals and cartoons, and you can see clips of him. And then he was also the late night horror host. He was a guy named Gorgon, and you can see clips of Gorgon on YouTube also. But he was a guy named Bill Camfield that played those parts. But the first time we moved all over the place, and I remember we lived in Tacoma, Washington, and the Seattle kid show host was a clown named JP Patches, and you can see shows of his online. And he was around in the 60s, and I was seeing him at like 75, 76, and yeah, he was really great. He was. Let's see what Captain Strangelife's saying here. Speed Racer.
Speed
Boy, I'm
Racer.
old. Love the theme song, 1966.
Speed Racer.
Yeah, that Speed Racer, was one of the first Japanese, cartoons, with Astro Boy. But I just remember as a kid just realizing, there are people dying in this cartoon just constantly, and people would go off the road, and there'd be an explosion, and it's like they are definitely dead, and then Speed Racer would go, oh, 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 and I just thought people that die in the other cartoons, but it's because it was from Japan, and they just have a little bit more tolerance for violence. But yeah, there was a high death count. Someone should do a death count in each episode. Um,
Speaking of
yeah,
the
Speed Racer
Japanese
was
one,
great.
One of my favorite theme songs for a cartoon was King Kong. You remember that one?
Yeah,
King Kong.
sure, that had a great theme song.
Oh, I loved that one. That one always stuck with me. That was a great theme song. Another one was
And the Hercules
Milton the
cartoon.
Monster. That was another good one.
Yeah,
Milton the Monster.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, not many people remember Milton the Monster. I think I have a complete set on DVD. For a while they were putting out just about everything on DVD. Now you can't find hardly any movies or TV shows in the stores. They're shrinking. That they don't want you to own movies anymore. They want you to stream everything. It's all a very it's a very political thing. I found that they don't really want people owning anything. Whenever you hear, I don't want to get too political, but when politicians talk about the Great Reset or building back better, they're referring to this plan that by 2030 we live in little cubicles and don't own anything. We rent things. Things are brought to us. We don't even have to leave the little cubicle, and so they don't really. So people don't accumulate anything. Most people, and so the people that get digital comics, they're part of that problem. It's just like, you want to own a record or a CD. You want to own an object because all it takes is one solar flare or electromagnetic pulse, and everything on the computer is gone. All those movies and all that music that you've accumulated on your computer is not going to survive.
Yeah,
And
I've always
so
felt
they're
that way
talking
with
more and more about
always felt that way with books. I know you can buy a lot of electronic books, and I'm like, I wouldn't want that, because if something happens to my computer, how could I read that book? I've always wanted, my paper. I buy a lot of paperback westerns, and I like I couldn't read them if my computer went down. So yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but I don't know.
Movie World says digital comics for the casual consumer, not the collector. But yeah, they don't want us to own anything. Is what they're said. This guy, this World Economic Forum, this Klaus Schwab, looks like Blofeld. This was you can see him saying, in a few years you will own nothing and you will be happy. They're so these are interesting world. So, but there's a lot of buzz in the media about cyber attacks, and so when they start talking about the possible, that usually means that they're planning to do something like that. But they have to talk about it first, because these evil people they have to tell you what they're going to do first, and then they can relish in it all the more that you were warned, and we told you what we're going to, it's the same as comic book villains and James Bond villains. They always tell you what they're going to do while they have you tied up. And then James Bond escapes, and he knows their plan. But it's really true. They'll talk about, there may be electrical problems where you won't be able to get electricity, and it's like, and then all of a sudden it's July and you don't have air conditioning. It's like, whoa, seems like they were just talking about that. Anyway, I don't know. I get paranoid. So, but when people talk about, when you're a collector and people talk about, well, you're just not going to have any belongings in 7 years. It's like, well, what are they going to do? I got a phone call coming in. Hold on 1 second. That may.
Sure.
I'll be right back. Let me see who this person is. I'll be right back. You can keep talking if you want.
Okay. Well, I guess while he's doing that, I'll show some comics that I got. I pulled some comics out.
Are you coming tonight?
Show some DC comics from my Brave and the Bold collection. This is Brave and the Bold number 30.
Give me a call because I'm upstairs working and I won't probably hear the doorbell.
First of Mazo.
Her mom is in town. They're going to hang out.
Brave and the Bold number 34.
And they've got a hotel room and stuff. So she's going to. Yeah.
Brave and the Bold 35.
All right, cool. Well, I'll see you in a while. Okay, that sounds good. All right, thanks.
Brave and the Bold number 36.
Sorry.
Okay.
I got this friend that visits every Friday night.
Yeah.
And he's calling to. Anyway.
I was just showing some.
Oh, I got one.
Some DC, some of my DC Brave and the Bold comics while you were away.
Yeah. I got that same movie theater sign behind you. Did you get that at Hobby Lobby?
Yes.
Right below this.
Yes.
It's cool. Because you can put whatever movies you want on it. And you can customize it. And
yep. I think I've got
I have
Birdman,
now
Birdman and the Galaxy Trio on there right now.
Oh, mine says Batman and Blood Feast.
Blood Feast.
So,
I remember.
that would be a good.
I remember reading about Blood Feast in Fangoria magazine, and I said, "Wow!" I had to go to my local video store when they had them on every corner, and finally found a copy of it to watch. And like, oh my gosh, I never laughed so hard as watching that movie. That was a
well. There was a great issue of the Monster Times. It was uh-oh. I think I'm delayed, but there's a Monster Times with a teenage werewolf on the cover, and it's supposed to be the worst issue of Monster Times ever, and it's all the worst movies, worst comic books, in their opinion, that have ever been made. And that's where they covered Blood Feast in the Monster Times. And so, yeah, that's how I first found out about it. But yeah, it's hilarious. But,
that was unique, that's for sure. But Fangoria was my go-to for all the grade B horror flicks, and I blew through them all in the 80s. Basket Case and Phantasm and all those. I went through all of those. Motel Hell and all those ones. I was really big into them back in the 80s.
Let's see. So Captain Strangelife's going to an outdoor burger place and getting a beer tent for a few hours. Later, guys, great show. And then let's see what Movie World's up
Take
to.
it easy,
But I
Hans.
think a lot of the sales, but I think that a lot of the sales for physical comics are from speculators and investors. Yeah, they'd have to be, because I don't know who reads the majority of these new comics. Um, First appearance of Amazo, that was a good issue. Whenever I think of Amazo, I think of that comic book. And Man Bear Pig says, I'm here now. Please start over from the beginning. So,
We got to rewind. Oh.
Yeah, the Castle of Frank. Were you into Castle of Frankenstein?
I had never seen one of those. The first time I had heard of Castle of Frankenstein was by Hans. He had shown one on one of his videos, but around here I never saw one of those. We did see the famous Monsters of Filmland. We saw those. Eerie, creepy. We saw those. And those were pretty much it.
Yeah. So Castle of Frankenstein had a weird distribution, and sometimes they would go a year or two between issues. And I mean, it's a magazine that started in the early 60s and went to the mid 70s, and I think only had 20 something issues. So it had a weird publication, and yeah, I don't know what people that had subscriptions thought. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, I had a subscription for it, and it was a year in between. I'd be wondering what did I subscribe to?
Yeah, Castle of Frankenstein is interesting in that the editor is who Robert Bloch based Norman Bates on. You know that story? I think
No.
you don't. Oh yeah, well, Robert Bloch hung out with. I gotta find my remote, with this group of science fiction people, and hold on, gotta restart. And so he was friends with Calvin Beck, that was the editor and publisher of Castle of Frankenstein, and hold on, 1 second. I've got this room torn up. Okay. So anyway, they were friends, and Calvin Beck had this mother who went with him everywhere he went, and was real clean. And when he went to college, she would sit in the back of each class and kind of monitor it. And if he was invited to a party, she would try to come along. And she was just this odd mother. And so he just kind of based it on his friend, and also a little bit, on, of course, on Ed Gein. But people think that Norman Bates is more based on Ed Gein. Really, it's more this odd guy that made Castle of Frankenstein magazine. But it was a really literate magazine, and Famous Monsters was just really cool looking. But when you tried to read it, it just wasn't much there. I mean, he did, bring back to kids' minds these guys like Lon Chaney and Boris Karloff, and that had been somewhat forgotten. But and he had all these stills, this collection of huge stills. But his kind of jokey style wasn't as, it's just Castle of Frankenstein, and the Monster Times had it. And then there were some other really good magazines too. See, I was born in '65, so I missed out on Saturday mornings. All those Hanna-Barbera superheroes. I saw those in reruns. So when were you born?
I was born in '62.
62.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I was 5 in '67. I remember '66 just barely, because they'd set you in front of the TV. on Saturday mornings. Here, there you go, you know, and you just get used to it. But I just remembered I was hypnotized by it, and then by the time 67 rolled around, I knew what was going on, and it was just like that's where I wanted to be. I got to the point where I learned to read the TV guide before I went to school. I could read the TV guide so I would know what shows were on. So I would know, okay, I got to be in front of the TV for Dark Shadows for here or this or that, you know, whatever, you know. So it was just that whenever, and that lasted for a long time. Whenever when we used to go grocery shopping every Wednesday night, religiously, every Wednesday night. And when we would get home, I'd grab the TV guide and I would read that thing cover to cover, you know, and I now collect them. So I love going back and reading TV guides from the mid to late 60s, because to me, it's like a photo album, a family photo album. I can go through and I can say, oh, I remember when that was on after school. And then I remember what I was doing, what was going on in my life at that time, you know, and it's like takes you right back, you know. So I really, really enjoy collecting those.
Yeah, I collect TV guides too. And in a lot of cases, I just saved them from when I was a kid. And my mom would always buy 2 copies, one for upstairs and one for downstairs. And I remember they would come out on Mondays. My mom would always take me to this bookstore on Mondays, and we would get the TV guide, and I would go through the whole week and know what was going to be on. I'd have to pour through this, and but you know, it was weird. Yeah, you become kind of aware of what's going on when you're about 4 or 5. That's where your memories kind of start. And I was born in San Antonio, and by the time when I was 4, we moved to Germany. My dad was stationed over there, and the first year, I think, first 6 months or more, we didn't have television because everyone thought that it was only German television, and that there was an American Armed Forces station, but it was way far away, and no one thought we could get it. And my dad just went up on top of the housing and put an antenna up. And it wound up pulling in the station fine, and then everyone else started putting up the antennas. But it was just one station, and it had just various shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, whatever they happened to pick for that, you know. And so I didn't see everything that was going on in the States. It was in a weird way. It was like we were there for 3 years. It was like being a kid more around 1949 or 50, when there's hardly any television, maybe one station in your area. And then when we moved back to the United States in 72, then I was exposed to all the network. Here, you only had the Flintstones in English. They had Captain America and the Hulk. I remember, what else? Tom Terrific. I mean, they didn't have many. The Warner Brothers cartoons, I'd see Porky Pig talking in German if I turned the channel, but there was no English Warner Brothers cartoons. And so, my exposure to all that started. And so, like Dark Shadows, I remember my mom was really into that in the late 60s before we moved to Germany. But I was really loving the comic books and the Viewmaster reels, and I knew that I would love the show, but then by the time we came back, it was pretty much canceled right about that time. So I saw it later in reruns and, you know, on DVD. So, so that was an interesting thing, is that my exposure to pop culture for those 3 years of 69 to 72 was mainly through comic books and magazines rather than television. So that, you know, and they just had, they had Star Trek, they had the Partridge Family, the Flying Nun, and it just hodgepodge of shows that I remember. Julia, and just weird
Bobby
stuff.
Sherman?
Huh?
Bobby Sherman.
Did they have Here Come the Brides? Probably.
He had his own show too called Getting Together. I think it was.
That. I remember
that's the one I remember.
So we moved to Hampton, Virginia in 72 to 73. That's when I really started getting into the monster stuff, like big time. And then, and the Marvel comics were coming in at the time. Then 73, we moved to San Antonio again, where I was born. And that's when I discovered the Marvel superhero comics, not just the monster, the Frankenstein and Dracula and the Werewolf by Night. And then when we moved to Tacoma, Washington, and there, that show Here Come the Brides was on constantly, because I guess it was a big deal that took place in Seattle. Now, I'd never heard of that show before, or Bobby Sherman. And then I was aware of the Partridge Family when I was a little kid, but yeah, Bobby Sherman was just as big. And then we moved to Arlington, that I call Gratouville, and so that's pretty much. And now we're trying to figure out maybe a place to resettle, because I don't really have any deep love for this town necessarily, and the property tax, I think, is outrageous. So I'd love to live someplace where there's mountains in the distance and someplace with history.
I'll tell you what, though, I don't envy you having to pack all that stuff you have.
I know. I know.
I mean, when I first saw, in fact, Captain Strangeliffe was the one who turned me on to watching your videos. And the first couple videos I saw, and you could just see the stuff in the background, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man, how the devil did you accumulate all that stuff, all that cool stuff you got in the background? I'm like, the toys and the models and all that stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. And then when you're saying you're going to move and stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to pack all that stuff up? Wow.
I mean, the last time I moved was in like 95. I guess I haven't then, but yeah.
Uh-oh, blocked up. He's locked up. Sneak in another comic book. We got Brave and the Bold number 39 with Task Force X, Suicide Squad. And Brave and the Bold number 42. Some more Hawkman. Number 43. The Winged Wonder. And number 44. And then it shifts from superheroes. Find a place to, I can set these down here. And the focus shifts from superheroes to strange sports stories. Here's number 45. I don't know how to read the chat, so I can't see the chat.
No, I got kicked out of my own studio somehow. The Wi-Fi is inferior here. Can you hear me?
Oh, he's trying to get back on, so hold on. He'll be back on. There we go. I think he's back.
I'm here.
I've just been showing more comics.
Cool.
Just showing some more comics while you were gone.
Excellent. Thank you. The weird thing I found out yesterday about this is if I was to shut it down, as long as if I had like 3 or 4 guests, as long as one of them stays on, the broadcast keeps going. the person that originates it can turn off their computer completely, because my computer accidentally got turned off yesterday by my dog, and I was doing this broadcast with a friend, and he just kept going. I thought that's weird, but apparently, yeah. If I had never come back, you could have gone on as long as you wanted with this. But anyway,
probably wouldn't have gone on too long before the audience dropped off.
Well, we got 9 people watching. So we got Jambo Comics on. Do you subscribe to Jambo Comics? You know him? He's got a great channel.
I'm not sure if I'm subscribed to him or not. I want to say yes. That it sounds familiar.
Yeah, he always has like Jungle Girl stuff in the background. Yeah, he's got great stuff. Jambo. If anyone wants to come on with us, you're welcome to. Let me post the link again. All you have to do is click on it, and I can bring you in. I can, with this free StreamYard, I can bring up to 6 people in at a time. Jambo says, oh, I didn't post it. Jambo says, both of you guys, both of you guys have awesome channels.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know what amazes me about when I was saying seeing all that stuff in the background of some of your videos is when you went through and did like your room tours and stuff, is the fact that you said some of the stuff, if not a lot of this stuff, most of the stuff is stuff that you kept from your childhood. Now, when I was a child, I had Captain Action stuff, Major Matt Mason stuff, G.I. Joe stuff, but none of that stuff survived. We destroyed that stuff. So the fact that you were able to keep that stuff in the shape that you have it in, that just blows my mind. I got to tell you, that's wonderful.
Let's see, we've got Graphic Man. Do you subscribe to Graphic Man?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, did you lock up? Oh, you might be locked up again. We'll sneak in another comic. Brave and the Bold, number 46. Brave and the Bold, number 47. We're closing in on the start of the team ups here. Brave and the Bold, number 48. Number 49. What would DC be without a gorilla on a cover? And now the team ups begin with Green Arrow and the Martian Manhunter. Number 50. Oh, let's see. Number 51, Aquaman and Hawkman. Number 52. Oh, we're showing one more. Number 52. All righty.
Cool.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Let's see. Jambo says, I'd love to get on, but I'm still working right now. And he said, that's a great book. Graphic Man was on, and I tried to bring him in, and right about that time, I was kicked off. And now he looks like he's not active. I can't figure that out. But there he is.
There he is.
Hello there, friends.
Hey. Oh, you're a Starfleet guy. Wow. So
You got my
Graphic
Starfleet
Man,
ring. You got my Starfleet
Hey.
ring on. There you go.
so remind me, Graphic Man, how to like show the computer screen. What do I do to do that?
On the bottom of your lineup, you have your mic, your camera, but the fourth one there is share.
Yeah.
You click share,
Right.
and then it'll open up an option. You can share your whole screen, which I don't see why you would. I select the one in the middle called your window. And so if you have a browser and a window off to the side already loaded up with stuff you want to show, you can show that. It'll become like one of us down here.
Okay.
And you can plug it in like it's a person.
All right. Let's see what I can do here.
I didn't plan on being on tonight, but I saw you had this really great guest, and I just had to jump in.
Oh, there we go. Well, let's see. What are you seeing now? Are you guys seeing the
We
white
see your
screen?
start page, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I want to show you some cool stuff on YouTube.
By the way, to your guest, you don't post enough. Just want you to know that you do not post enough.
Oh,
I appreciate that, and I really wish I had the time and sometimes the energy to post more, because it's so much fun to do that and just share things with the community. It's so much fun to hear the feedback and everything. It's so much fun. It really is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us grew up the same way, as far as we really probably didn't have a whole lot of outlets and people to share this with growing up, and here we've got community all over the world that we can share this with now. And it's so much fun to share it with like-minded folks. It really is.
are you seeing what my, you seeing
Enough
all
said.
this?
Yeah, it looks like a pin that says "Nuff said." Old marble pin.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right video here. I wonder if it still exists. Oh, I know how to get to it. Because I have it. Let's see. I need to go to my channel. Okay. There. I don't know if you guys ever look at the playlist that I accumulate. Because it's like probably an endless rabbit hole. I'm not used to this laptop computer and using this finger mouse, so it's driving me crazy here. I haven't even used this computer in a long time. Okay, created playlist.
Gratu, if you can keep on going, but bring me back
There's one
in.
that
I'm going
says
to
music
set up
to
a
read
different
comic
microphone. I'm going to leave temporarily. Bring me back in.
Okay. Okay. All right. I sure will. Let me view full playlist. That's what I want. What is this? No, that's not what I want. Oh, I see what's going on. All playlists. Got it. I'm looking for one that says music to read comic books by.
Even with the glasses, the print is too small
Oh
for me
yeah,
to read.
here it is. Here it is. Okay. The cool thing is it's here. This guy that wrote all the songs for the '60s Marvel superheroes cartoon. I guess on PBS they brought him on, and he talks about it. It's anyway. This is a good video to watch because he sings all of the songs. I don't know if you guys can hear the sound at all.
Just barely.
Yeah, but he does all of them. He talks about how he went in, knew nothing about the heroes, and I guess he grabbed a few comics so he could.
Have a reference.
Yeah. So that explains one of the lyrics in the Hulk theme. Yeah, this is just annoying. Where he says, where they're singing, "He's no monster clown. Who is his?" And I always thought, well, they're like calling you a clown and saying he's no monster, comma clown, like you're a clown for calling him a monster. But he meant it. He says in one of the early issues, he was described as a, or I think he's talking about like maybe Avengers #2, or isn't he dressed as a clown like in that issue? And I think that's what he saw, and so he meant he's no monster clown. Let's see. I've heard man, bear, pigs. Let's see what people are saying here.
Now that you mention that, I do remember. I've got a visual of him in a clown outfit.
Yeah, it was one of the early. It wasn't Avengers 1. It was probably 2 or 3. I think there is like maybe some circus of crime, and Hulk was like dressed up like a clown. Let's see. Great panel of party animals, says Zombo. Let's see. Graphic Man has a Starfleet uniform on. Man Bear Pig says, "Is there a share audio option?" I don't have any idea. I'm learning this as I go. I've heard people on other channels mention that. Yeah, I don't know. So I guess Graphic Man will be back on in a minute when he gets a new microphone. So anyway, I was going to show stuff on YouTube. I thought it was going to be easy, but I can't work. I got to get a separate mouse because doing this, moving the computer with a finger, I'm out of practice on that.
Yeah, well, it can get kind of tricky.
So, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So so do you collect music as well? Are you into music?
I am, but I don't buy a whole lot of albums. I'm pretty I pretty much just deal with Spotify. I do have some albums, but it's real eclectic. Like I have I just bought a Green Hornet one not too long ago. I can't see it. What's that?
The soundtrack?
I can't remember what it was.
Soundtrack album?
But I know, yeah, I can't remember. I just remember it was Green Hornet. Now I can't remember what it was. But
Does it have the hornet symbol on the front, the circular hornet symbol?
I want to say yes. I want to say yes. Doggone. I don't know. It should be
That
right
must be
here.
the soundtrack. There's another one. There's one where he's standing next to Al Hurt with the trumpet.
That
and
might
it's
be it.
kind of an Al
Yeah, I think
Hurt
that
album,
might be it.
and he does the Green Hornet theme on it.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah, if he's standing next to a guy with a beard with a trumpet. Yeah.
I think that
And
might
then
be
there's
it.
a children's record that I've never seen, but you can listen to it on YouTube. This company, Leo Records, the division of MGM, put out some really good comic book albums. They did one that I had since I was a kid with the origins of Aquaman, Green Lantern, and the Flash, and it's the Golden Age Green Lantern and Flash. And then they had two Batman records that came out about the same time as the show, and a Superman record, maybe two. And then they did a Prince Valiant one, a Flash Gordon one, where they actually brought Buster Crabbe into the studio to do the voice. And they're all done with the quality of old time radio. And there's a Green Hornet one. And I can't remember what else they did. Seems like they did something else. But it's really good quality stuff.
Didn't somebody do one
And
with
I think Aquaman's voice is the same guy that did his voice. Huh?
Didn't somebody do one with Metamorpho and Plastic Man?
Yeah, that was in the 70s. Well, there was Power Records in the 70s that did a lot of superhero records. They were not as good, but they were funny because the acting, you could tell the actors were brought into the studio and never read the script until they turned on the microphone. In America, and he was Charlton Heston on the Planet of the Apes record, and that guy was a lunatic. His acting was insane. You've got to listen to those Power records. But yeah, I think there was a DC record in the 60s that had musical themes for all the heroes. In the Justice League, and there might have been a Metamorpho. I think there was a Metamorpho on that. Well, at least I think he's coming in. What do I need to do here?
Hey, welcome back.
Hopefully this sounds better. I had to switch microphones. So.
Cool. Look at that wall. Yeah. What is that issue of Tales to Astonish? I can't make it out.
Oh, 29. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nice.
Well, so how do you guys feel about slabbing comics?
You want to take that one, Graphic Man?
There's a delay.
You're the more guest. I thought I'd bend the knee to you.
Okay, well, I can tell you I own exactly one slab book. And the only reason I own that one slab book is because I wanted to see what was involved with slabbing, and so I could at least talk intelligently about it when I discussed slabbing books. I'm not a fan of slabbing for my collection. I like to be able to read my books anytime I want to get to them. I understand folks who want to have them slabbed. I got no problem. They want to do that. If you're going to sell them, I think it does benefit you to have them slabbed. But for me personally, I don't want to have my books slabbed. The biggest thing is I could never take this book. Excuse me. I couldn't take this book, put it in the mail, send it to someplace I don't know where it is, and then trust that I'm going to get it back. I couldn't do that. It would drive me crazy. Now, and this is just this is probably, I don't know, maybe a $40 book, maybe, Now I send out a Hulk #2 signed by Stan Lee. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. If I could go and stand there and they do it right there, 5-10 minutes, I might think about doing that somewhere down the road. But I still like to take those books and take them out and read them. I got to admit, I take them out and smell them too, because there is that, you've heard people say it, and I agree with them. There is that old comic book smell, man. It takes me right back to pulling them off the rack, But yeah, I'm for me personally, I'm not a slab guy. I understand why people do it. God bless them. That's the way they want to do it. That's fine. I got no problem with anybody who wants to do it that way. It's just not for me. That's all.
I understand if you pass away and your family is stuck with these books, they're not a fan like you are. It really helps them. But I couldn't afford to get 7,000 books slabbed, and so I plan to read these again and again and again. And besides, if you get yourself a nice archive, this is the thicker type Mylar. I think it's kind of what they use inside their slab, and so it's very, very resistant, and that's just good enough for me. But yet I can get this out in about 12 seconds, and so
I think it's funny that people that have them slabbed, then they have to worry about chips and scratches on the slab. So they have the slab. They have bags to put the slabs in. So it just never ends.
So what I do is I grade them. See on the back, I have all the pertinent information. I have a small image of the book, the title, the date, hopefully the author. But I put I graded a little low, and that way, let's say my poor widowed wife had to sell these, and she's on the phone with some nutball comic book guy who claims that this, was graded too high. But hopefully I've graded them low enough that no one's going to give her a hard time.
There it is. That's the only slab book I have. It's not an expensive book by any stretch. I think I paid less than $10 for it, just so I could be able to intelligently talk about it when I talk to people about it. And I went out and I actually bought a loose copy so I could actually have it to read. So, but that's the only one in my collection. So
yeah. It's just, I agree that if people want to do it, that's fine. But I want to read the books, and I'm fascinated by the advertisements too, everything about them, and yeah. So
I know. Captain Strangelife, he's one that's always fascinated by the old ads in there. I know he takes them and blows them up and makes posters out of them in the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, he's had some. It seems like I saw a video or two where he had bad experiences with slabbing comics. They came back; it looked like damaged, and that he says weren't. And then I heard someone, I don't know who said it, but it came back and there was a hair inside the slab. So I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if it ever happened, but how would you know that's your book in there? I don't know. I just couldn't do it.
Also, I hear that the slabbing process is kind of based on what they perceive the value of the book is. If this book is worth $10, you have the very basic rate. Let's say it takes $50 to slab. I don't know. But let's say that's their base price. If they suspect this book is worth $3,000, all of a sudden your book to slab is twice that, or based upon a percentage of how much that is. So unfortunately for you, if you have action number one and you send that in, which is probably one of the few books that I would justify definitely sending that in, but I would hate to see the bill on that.
Yeah.
Am I far from? I think that's what it's based on.
Wow.
Well, I was told it cost about $200 altogether to slab a book. I thought it was $25, but the insurance and everything, and then it takes the better part of a year to get it back.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
the
have
other
separation
thing I hear.
anxiety from the comic that.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I hear is the time involved. I mean, I I don't know as I want to be apart from any of my books for months at a time. I mean, as it is, I come down here probably at least once a week, if not once every couple of days. Just there might be a certain book, something, whatever strikes my fancy. And, oh, I want to see something in that book, and I have to come down, pull a long box, and find it. Whatever. It's just be able to get at that book, But I just couldn't imagine sending these books away and they're out of my control. Oh, it just drives me crazy, man.
Yeah.
God bless those people that can do it, because it would drive me crazy.
Well, I see, like, Silver Age Dave has like 20 copies of a comic. So if he sends a couple out to be slabbed, there's no, I don't think there'd be separation anxiety if you still got a bunch, But if it's your only copy of something, or if it, something you had since you were a kid, I don't know. This old friend of mine that I've met more through music collecting, that I've known since the mid 80s, and he's about 7 years older than me, because he was high school class of 76 and I was high school class of 83. So he was collecting comics early on, and then stopped and got more into record collecting. But we'd occasionally, he would occasionally tell me that he had pretty much a complete run of Spider-Man up through the 70s and all this, and all this stuff at his mom's house, and all the X-Men 1 through the new X-Men, mid to late 70s. And I thought, well, that's amazing. And then he had 2 daughters. Neither of them are interested in comics. And at a certain point, he sold off his Edgar Rice Burroughs novels. They weren't that valuable. But then he sent his X-Men comics to I won't mention the name of the auction house, but it's a big auction house. And he swore when he saw them in the catalog that those weren't necessarily his copies. They didn't, he wasn't sure, but he thought maybe there'd been a switch, where they kept his copies, and, he wasn't sure. But you get paranoid when they get out of your possession. Like you said, how the one you get back is, unless it has a date stamp or something very distinctive on it. So anyway, he didn't get that much for X-Men 1 through, this was a while back, through whatever. And so he was disappointed with that. And he moved into this amazing 1950, well, it was 60s house, that had a giant geodesic dome in the backyard, like just like Logan's Run. And it was the guy that owned that house had was going to build those in people's backyards, and he bought, and this was like the prototype. And anyway, he had his big setup up with his jukebox and all his records, and he had some boxes of comics. Then he had to move back to Dallas, and he said, "Here, uh, I'm just going to give you these comics." He says, "I'm going to keep my Spider-Mans and my Captain Marvel, the Marvel, the '70s Captain Marvel, not the female Captain Marvel." And he didn't collect in that era. And and he kept his New Gods comics. But he says, "Here," he gave me a whole long box of the Avengers from like issue 16 through about 1975. And I had some of them, but then I had a complete run of all of them. And he says, they're just kind of reading copies, but I was so happy. He just gave it to me. He says, you'll take care of these. I don't want to send these. I'm not going to get anything from the auction house. My daughters don't want them. I was hoping he would, like, he'll every so often he'll say, "Well, I'll let you know if I want to get rid of my Spider-Man comics." But yeah, that was one of the most wonderful gifts, right before yeah, there we go.
That's the real Captain Marvel right there.
So, and that's what I keep talking about. I keep mentioning it on my channel. All these 60s and 70s references where they use the word Holocaust. Today, it has one meaning, and and you can't really get it off of the computer. But I think that when did the word Holocaust come to mean only the horrible thing that happened in World War II? And I guess it happened from the miniseries in 1980 called Holocaust. And then I guess after that, it became in the popular consciousness. Holocaust describes that one event. But all through, when I'm flipping through comics in the 70s, Aquaman, H is for Holocaust. And it's like the Holocaust was used a lot in the Marvel comics. And it's just weird when words change their meaning, like universally. Like all the Christmas songs that have the word gay in them. And then all of a sudden, it completely changes meaning, like in a span of just a couple of years. And then everyone chuckles during those songs. So
I thought it always
fascinates me.
I thought it always meant burning on some level. And then when you think about what happened to a lot of those people, they were kind of burned in ovens. And so it's a good description of what happened, but the word can probably be used in many ways, but it does seem to stick to that one definition.
Yeah. But yeah, so it definitely didn't have that meaning when that Captain Marvel comic came out, like 68, or was that Marvel? It was Marvel Superheroes, I think.
Well, this one was it was Marvel Superheroes, but this one's his own title. That's number 1.
Oh, that's issue 1, right?
Yeah.
I don't have issue 1. I have the Marvel Superheroes one.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just astonished all the Golden Age comics you were pulling out the other night, Graphic Man. Your collection far outclasses mine. I was like, oh shoot, I don't have stuff like that.
Well, I bet Dr. Silver Age has better silver. Doc's probably got this in a much better.
Yeah.
Much.
Well,
better.
I don't know if it's better, but I do have that one because I love the Radioactive Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my.
I note that in this one, he's kind of hypnotized. He throws his hammer away. It lands in whatever body of water is there in New York City. And then later, as Dr. Blake, he's able to invent this machine with a camera that can go find it, which is quite a feat. And then he dives down, and I think Stan Lee's dialogue was about 100 feet. And then I looked up how deep does a pearl diver dive, and those guys are about 100 feet is kind of your limit because your body can't handle that. And for some reason, Dr. Blake can do this and touch the hammer and become Thor again. It's quite a tale if you don't think about it too hard.
We got Eric Breen. Eric Breen, I think, spends every waking hour in some live stream. It's like 24 hours a day. He's somewhere live if he's not asleep. I don't know. So I don't know if he wants to come on this one, but you're welcome to if you want to. See, Zombo is laughing or smiling, but yeah. I don't think I have that issue of journeying into mystery. I've got a lot of them, but that I need to fill in a lot of holes. And what I'll do, it's weird. The last time I was in Duncanville Books looking for that, it says, "Can you send me a link on Twitter? I haven't streamed in hours." Oh man, I don't know if he's being sarcastic or if he really wants a link. I don't know how to get to Twitter. Shoot. Are any of you in a position where you could send Eric this link that I'm putting in the because I got rid of Twitter and then I brought it back, but then I forgot what my password is. So my wife knows how to guess my password, but I can't even get into Twitter right now. I got mad at Twitter. Can you, Graphic Man? Can you? I do, but
I can try.
Can't get
I
on
haven't
through
set
my
up on
phone.
the other one over there. But.
Okay, is what he's saying. Well, okay. Yeah, is there anybody? There's 11 people watching. If any of you can send that link to Eric Brain's Twitter, could someone do that? I don't know what the hell I'm doing on computers. I think I sent it to him, says Zombo. Cool. All right. Well, then that should do it. Yeah, I'll figure this out. First thing I've got to get is better Wi-Fi, I think. Then I need to get a microphone and probably headphones to do this live stream stuff efficiently. Then it's and then because I like to play this music in the background, but I don't even know where the microphone is on this computer. I mean, obviously I know the camera's up there because there's a green light. Where are the microphones usually on these? In the front? I gotta get some.
Well, it looks like Jambo beat me to it, but I did send it to him in case Jambo's doesn't work. So
okay,
I had to become a Twitter person to communicate with poor Eric.
Yeah, that Journey into Mystery. What I did is last summer I filmed all of my Journey into Mystery and Thor comics on a video on YouTube. And so when I was in Duncanville Books looking through their back issues, I was playing the video on my phone and seeing which ones I had, because you see these comics so much and then you forget, do I have that one or not? I don't know if you guys are like that. Well, look at that.
Nice.
Now that's pre-code. That's number 16.
Yeah. Wow.
There's 57.
Yeah.
Nice.
And 58. Stan really liked naming them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember that one.
There's 60. Bamboo. I'm sure the good doctor has a lot of these.
No, I start my Journey into Mystery with 83. I have 83 on up except for 87. Beautiful.
Did Thor start in 82 or 83?
83.
Oh, okay. All right.
And there's a giant spider attacking everybody. I love all the Kirby people in the bottom. And there's 80. like the little cat getting ready to get that guy.
I don't know why I'm
And
not
the one
making it bigger.
before, this is the one right before Thor. If I were alive back then, this is probably when I would have canceled my subscription, being a dummy, and just missing out on Thor. So this was the closest within 10 issues of his appearance.
Very nice, though. Very nice.
There's 97.
I finally figured out
Man.
to give you full screen. Sorry.
But I won't show too many more. But I love it when there's a giant on that cover.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Dude. Oh. Love those Silver Age covers.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, Thor was the greatest. When I started getting these back issues in the 70s, Thor and Fantastic Four were still kind of affordable, in good condition, not, and so I was buying them from Lone Star Comics, and Doom Patrol and Legion of Superheroes were the ones I was picking up mostly in the back issue bins. So, Traffic Man,
There's a fantastic. There's a
look
fantastic
at that.
four for you.
Is that 112?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that cover. I got to put it in a new bag, though, because the bag doesn't do it any justice.
Yeah.
That one.
And go ahead.
This is the one I really like.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
wow.
I love the coloring they did on Hulk here.
Oh, yes.
I just like the way they shaded it in green stuff. That I really do. That's really cool.
Do you think that was Marie Severin doing the coloring?
It might have been. She liked to do it her own way. As you can tell, I'm a Hulk guy. So if Hulk was appeared in the book, I tried to get it. So, but
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh, by the way, the good doctor, I'm not trying to, as the fellas say on the playground, I'm not trying to get into a pissing match. I just like showing. Old
Nice.
Fantastic Fours off. So that's my oldest. That's my oldest. 6, 7,
yeah.
and number 8.
Yeah. Wow.
Very nice. Very
Of course,
nice.
CGC would just kind of, is that the best you can do? So I'm not really I'm not in the big boys really, but I sure love reading them, and I read them so often I can't slap them.
Yeah.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, I can't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
So, and somebody mentioned earlier that their family, their kids or whatever had no interest in comics, and I have a son and a daughter, and neither one has any interest in comics whatsoever. So it's like, and my wife really doesn't have any interest in comics either. So I don't know what they're gonna do. They'll at least get some money anyway.
Well, as a little
Right.
kid, I would be in the comic shops, and I would be busy looking through all the boxes, and some guy would come in with a whole box of them. He's probably cleaned out his attic because he needs money, and he goes in there, and the store owner is going to give him maybe 5 cents a book. And I thought, that's how he has all these great books. People are down on their luck. They bring in their whole collection that Grandpa had, and he gives them peanuts for them, and then he sells them to me for, you know, $5, $10, $20 a book. And I thought the way to get a good collection is to have a brick and mortar store. And so, but by the time I got old enough to own a store, I didn't like the way the direction was going in the 90s, and so I got out of books, and because they no longer make these, they make weird stuff where, I don't know, it's just not the same. You might be a modern guy, and that's fine. Everybody to their own thing, but I stopped around 93.
I did continue.
Yeah, I stopped.
90s, but certain series. You know, I kept going because I wanted to keep the runs alive.
Yeah,
X-Men, Fantastic Four.
The Fantastic Four all the way to 416 or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Captain America, Avengers, Justice League, runs like that I'd had quite a bit. I kept those runs going, but it was tough. It was tough because wasn't always the greatest stories, wasn't always the greatest artwork. You know.
Yeah, I think
Eric.
I got. Hey, Eric.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Says, nice to meet you, Dr. Silver Age.
It is nice to meet you too.
But I do have a question. When in 1962 were you born?
July.
Damn. I thought I finally found somebody that I could say is older than me. No, I cannot.
Sorry, bud.
Well, strange like
Yeah,
that.
I said, can we get him on so I can feel better?
What year or month were you born, Eric?
May 6th, 62.
Okay.
And what's your social security?
Coming soon.
Yeah. Just be careful, guys. A little too much information here.
Yeah, last night I was watching a video from a young lady, and she dropped a line. She said, "Yeah, 15 years ago when I was a teenager," and she started going, So I commented. I said, 15 years ago when I was a teenager, that's so 1996.
Yeah, 15 years ago, teenagers would come up to you and want you to co-sign a loan.
Yeah. Now they just asked me. Now they just asked me to get them beer.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you make a nice.
We were
profit
talking
from
about. We're talking about kids not having interest in comics. I don't blame kids today not being interested in comics. It would almost be weird for them to be interested in these pamphlets that you buy for $7, $8, and you can read them in about 2 minutes. I mean, they're not. I don't know what's going on with the industry, but
they're going after a different audience, and there's so much competition for kids' attention spans and money that I think with the comic book industry aired was when they worked so hard to get rid of people like us before they had a replacement for us. Yeah. If I had come along 40 years later, I would think if I had $5, $6, $7, I would probably be putting that towards the next Call of Duty than some 40-page comic. And I'm not trying to be glib, but let's be honest. We grew up with our record players. You know, kids have everything in the world at their fingertips, and so how do you get them excited about something on the printed page? It's a uphill battle, and then even if you are fortunate enough to get somebody to read the stuff now, if they're not of a certain, I hate to say this, if they're not of a certain ideological bent, they're probably not going to be all that enamored with what's being published.
All right. Yeah, they become political pamphlets, like, and yeah, and it's just collecting anything is kind of is just available to you. Any obscure record from 1961, you just type it in, and it's immediately there on YouTube. It's just everything is just there, and it might have taken 20 years to develop knowledge about a certain genre of music or to collect some comic, and now a kid that becomes interested in that genre of music in a weekend just on the internet could obtain the same knowledge that took you several decades to accumulate. And it's not that's bad, but it seems like it's taken the hunt out of collecting when it's just all there. Because there was some fun in hunting it down.
Yeah,
but having it all available.
Yeah, I appreciate having that as an option, but I would much rather find something that I want in the wild, as they say. I mean, nothing beats going to a comic book store and seeing what they have, or going to a convention and finding that one dealer that actually brought something different than everybody else. And yeah, that said, if yes, you can find everything online now, but with all the speculating going on, there used to be able to go on eBay and find bargains. That ship has sailed. That's getting very hard to do.
I remember my first convention I went to, I was enamored with, I had the same effect that Gratu had. He's kind of freaked out by a lot of these people. Let's face it, sometimes a comic guy can get a little weird. But I would be watching, this guy has an interesting backpack. Maybe he's checked out that's the best backpack to carry books in. This guy over here, for some reason, he's looking through Harvey comics. What is he specifically looking for? This guy has got this beat up piece of paper that he unfolds, and it's his checklist. And it's like, I wonder what system he uses to double check everything. And so, but the internet has helped a lot of people get together and kind of figure out the best ways to collect. And there's probably no best way, but whatever works for you. But I would always be kind of just out of the corner of my eye checking out, what's this guy doing? What's he looking for? And how is he keeping track of everything? And there's just too much stuff to carry for me.
I still use the old-fashioned flip notebook, the little one that fits in your pocket. I've always used that. I don't get to go to too many conventions nowadays because up my area, they don't have a whole lot of conventions anymore. There's one or two a year, and then there's one in Boston. But the one in Boston is such a hassle to try and get to with parking and everything, But that's what I use. I use just a flip one, and I usually only put the ones that are really, the Silver Age ones that I'm looking for. I can usually flip through anything like late Bronze Age, 80s, 90s, if I'm just trying to fill in something like that. But the Silver Age stuff that I'm really looking for is tougher now because it's fewer that I need to find, but it's more expensive. So I'll forget. My memory ain't what it used to be. So I have to keep track of it that way, And then there's a lull.
I think we ought to stop to read
I'm
the
putting
comments.
messages up.
So, Doctor, are you in the Northeast, I presume? You might have frozen.
I'm going to guess Connecticut, but I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
I was getting caught up on messages. Yeah. Oh, I guess he's rebooting. I think he said he was in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Sure.
I think we all
If you can hear
disappeared
us,
then.
if you can hear us, Doctor, Breen would like to know what state
Anyway,
you're in.
I'm sorry.
I was asking you where in the Northeast you are, or there.
Maine. I mean, in southern Maine. Little town called South Berwick.
I was born in a little town called Medfield, Massachusetts, so I'm originally from up there myself. That neck of
Okay,
the
yeah,
woods.
I know of Medfield. Sure.
Our claim to fame was they blocked off the front of the street looking for Albert Salvo once.
uh,
The Strangler.
They didn't find him.
No.
At least not there.
Not, yeah, I was going to say not there, right? Oh man.
And for about a year, we lived next to a professional boxer who once knocked down Floyd Patterson. Problem was, Floyd knocked him down about 6 times.
Well, you're not supposed to let him get up.
Well, at least we never told his sons, well, my dad can whip your dad.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
I think what happened as far as conventions go, for me, I think in the 80s, there was a certain point right at the middle of the 80s when I met this group of friends, and this one friend of mine that I met from this group had collected movie posters for years, and seeing his collection of movie posters and inserts and lobby cards, and I got interested in that, and movie stills, and then records, old records, and so I started to collect other things, and I would still go to the same conventions, but I'd be looking at records and movie posters. Now conventions are pretty much all cards and weird. There was a convention a few blocks from here. I was really excited because I could basically walk to it a couple of summers ago, and it was billed as a comic convention at UTA, the University of Texas at Arlington. And I went in, and there were no comics, and I finally found one dealer that had a card table with about 3 short boxes of comics. And I said, you realize you're the only person in this comic convention that actually has comics? And he said, yeah, it was all cosplay and whatever people are into now, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, little fairy statues. I don't know. It's anime, it's like comics are way down. No one was interested in that convention. But and then the 90s came, and I think in the 90s when there was this glut of all these fancy shiny comics that printed in the millions, I think I started to get into I started really collecting old Betty Page stuff, and then and I spent more money on Betty Page than any girl I've ever dated. Of course, that soon changed, unfortunately. Well, I won't talk about that. But Betty Page and old 50s and 60s pinup magazines, and I was the stuff that's at the comic conventions, but the records are there, the movie posters, all that stuff is there. But I kind of wasn't that interested in the way comics were going. I would still look at the old comics and still in monster magazines. I was always into that. So I had so many different. Oh, and in the early 2000s, I got interested in spook show posters. These, where they had magicians come to movie theaters and have skeletons coming out and Frankenstein. These garish, wonderful posters for these midnight spook shows they would have. I started getting those from eBay, and so there's all kinds of other things that diverted my attention, and then spending a lot of money on a particular. I don't want to even get into that. So then pretty much, then I woke up and I wanted to get back into comics, but every so often I dip my foot into it. I would always go into comic stores, look at the new comics. Sometimes there's something great like Kingdom Come, I'd buy that, or Marvels, but then I would go to the back issue bins. But I was always watching, just like if there was some good music that would come out today in 2021, I would love to be able to turn on the radio and listen to music. I would love for someone to produce music that actually was good, but I'm always willing to listen, but just nothing ever materializes in these. And I'm always kind of looking at these comics as I walk past that table on New Comic Day, and sometimes the covers are kind of cool looking, and then you open it up and it's very bland with a computery drawing. Then I haven't read many of them, but I hear all these horror stories about the political slant in these comics that makes me realize it's just all part of the same horror that's coming at us from every direction, from the news, from music world, from Hollywood, from the comics. It's like we're being inundated in propaganda and so, but I like the old stuff. I always will.
You're not wrong. I mean, the big two. I finally pulled the plug on both of them. I'm guessing for good this time. I was talking about the other night. I still enjoy Ed Brubaker's output, and a friend of mine that I do those retrospectives with on Thinking Critical, he has a book out called Beckstar, and I'm supporting that. That's it. That's the only new stuff I'm buying.
I still like I had mentioned earlier in the show that I still buy a couple different things. Like for DC, I'll get Justice League. For Marvel, I'll get Immortal Hulk because I'm a Hulk guy. I'm a Justice League guy. But I think with DC, where they're going up in their prices, that might be it for me. Simply because it just it's too much, I mean, when you tell people that my parents, when I go over and visit my folks or something like that, and they might mention, hey, you still doing funny books? And I'll say, yeah, I still, how much they cost now? And say, well, they cost $5-6. They just shake their head, and I'm like, you can't defend it anymore. Yeah, you're right. That's an awful lot. I could take that money, I can turn it around, invest it into Dollar Bin, and do some pick up some filler issues from stuff from the 80s, 90s, maybe even some from the 70s. So I really think that that's probably it's probably going to be done for me with DC because of the prices there. I'll probably still continue with the Hulk. Simply because I love that character, always will. Just hoping they kind of bring back towards the Hulk I knew and loved. I don't know. I don't see it. I'm leaning more towards the independents. Berserker, and there's a couple other ones that I pick up. Green Hornet, when that comes out, I pick that up. Stuff like that. That I really enjoy. But for the big two, that's about it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned
So
Justice League. I
Zombo
was
is recommending down below. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I see Zombo. I don't know who Wes or Perch are, but a line of. Do you know who those are? Who those people are?
Yeah, I stream with both of them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Wes is the guy I do the retrospective videos with.
Oh, okay. Old creators with new stories, and so have they done that lately? Have they brought back older creators?
They're doing it a little bit. They have an X-Men series that they're letting, like Walt and Louise Simonson did an issue. I think they had Claremont write an issue, and they're not bad. I see the problem is I'm so conditioned to not even look on the new racks on Wednesday that I forget they come out. And
well, yeah,
they're not doing well, unfortunately, because I think a lot of people just don't bother to look anymore to see if anything that they would actually like is coming out.
Well, I spotted, that Neil Adams was doing the Fantastic Four, and I thought, well, shouldn't that be a major thing? But then it's not 1971 anymore, and I don't think the average person buying comics knows who Neil Adams is. But I picked up those issues of Neil, but I haven't read them yet. They may be terrible, but it's just cool to see Neil Adams do.
It actually wasn't bad, and Dr. Silver Age just pulled one up, and yeah, it was set. I think it was set in the time right before Kirby left. I think that's where they put it in, sort of continuity wise. But no, it wasn't bad.
Okay. Yeah, and then I saw that Neil Adams had done an X-Men comic with the little. I mean, he worked on the X-Men like around 1970 or something. But I thought that was interesting. But I don't know how much Neil Adams has been doing lately. I know he's like Joe Biden's age, literally. He's about 78. But I remember when they had Bill Everett come back with Submariner in the early 70s, and I thought that was amazing. And who else is? And then they had Dick Sprang doing a few covers on Batman about 20, I don't know, maybe that was 30 years ago. And I thought, why don't they just have him do the whole comic? He maybe couldn't, but it's like, if these guys are alive and they're willing to do a cover, try to get them to do as much as you possibly. As I remember, Dick Sprang was doing all this art for fans and selling it, so he must have needed a little money, or maybe. But that's what I think. That bring the old people back. Yeah.
But that would kind of run opposite of what they're trying to do as an industry. Is that if they keep giving us old folks blasts from our past, we might keep buying their stuff, and they don't seem to want that. Not to be overly cynical, but I mean, you can only be told you suck so many times before you say, I'm going to go somewhere else.
So yeah, so they're wanting basically Antifa to buy their comics. They're wanting the people out in the street, but they're busy in the street, occupying Portland. They're not reading comic books. That's who they think is going to be the new, it's like Marvel's like, we're going to get all these hippies to read Silver Surfer, and it's going to be, and actually they did. I saw this picture of some hippie big outdoor festival, and they had a giant stack of Silver Surfer comics they were selling. But yeah, in Doctor Strange, it was, it had that counterculture audience, but I don't know if there's a huge audience. There's probably a few, but I don't know. They're probably just Okay, Tom Smith is. Let's see what people are saying here. Is Salbut Ushima still working Zombo? Is he still working, or is he still alive? I'm not sure.
He is still alive.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he's
And
doing anything.
I gotta go now. Have a good night. Gratu, Eric, Graphic Man, Dr. Silver, Zombo, etc. All right. Just trying to get everyone's comments on there. Yeah, what I see is that's fascinating to me more than anything, on YouTube are people that have niche interests. That fascinates me. Like Graphic Man, you have this interest in westerns that for years most comic collectors. What do you have there? Yeah, and Charlton 66 is fascinated with Charlton comics. And then there's a really cool guy called the Classic Comic Collector that collects romance comics. And that's fascinating. And then there are people, let's see, Zombo is, oh God, let's see what I didn't show here. The Heroes Union is from Binge Books and is in this month's previews. I'm not sure how much art Sal has in it, but his is credited with Ron Friends. So there might be a lot of things in previews, and there may be amazing things coming out that I don't know about. I always think about that, and then I think about looking through previews, and then I kind of think maybe I shouldn't because I'll see hundreds of dollars worth of stuff that's out, but most comic stores don't carry it. They don't carry it because they know that there'll only be one or two people or no one that's interested in that. But
now, if I knew that Ron Friends and Sal Buscema were teaming up and drawing something, that would be tempting to me to look at it. But I would still be very cautious of whoever's writing.
I think Roger Stern and Ron Friends are teaming up for something, but it's not from one of the big two. I heard that the other day. I wish I could remember more of what it was they were doing.
Like if I knew they were going to confine the setting in maybe a 1930s environment where things were different back then, and I know they wouldn't make everybody woke because they weren't woke back then. So I would probably pick it up. I loved Ron Friend's artwork, and Sal, I still get nostalgic for the old ROM issues of Sal. And when Sal did the Hulk for quite a while, that was some very good art.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the Berserker comics pretty great.
I'm enjoying them. It's like John Wick on steroids.
And that's definitely going to be made into a movie.
What's that?
It's definitely going to be made into a movie, I would assume.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah. So I find it interesting.
So Matt Kent has a good track record, so I'm not surprised that it's good.
Well, this friend of mine that got me into collecting movie posters back in the 80s, he, after college, wound up in Hollywood working with Brian Usna and Stuart Gordon, the guys that made The Reanimator, and he worked with them, and he became a coordinator of special effects in a lot of movies that he worked on. And then he spent about 20 years in Hollywood, then came back here and unfortunately passed away a few years ago. I think those 20 years in Hollywood did some damage to his body, unfortunately. But anyway, he was on the set of a movie called Freaked that Alex Winter made. The other guy in the Bill and Ted, and he had Keanu Reeves there in the cast. It's a movie that no one's seen, but it's actually a cool movie. And it's about carnival freaks. And it's just an insane Big Daddy Roth looking movie. But anyway, it was being filmed when the Rodney King riots broke out in Los Angeles, and they were filming it right in the heart of where that started. And so my friend had this big 50s Cadillac, and the other people on the set would always make fun of him because he was always armed, because he just was a Texan that always had a gun. And then as soon as that happened, they were like, no, we understand why you have. They were clinging to him, like, and the producers left in a helicopter and left everyone else. And so he took Keanu Reeves into his Cadillac and basically probably saved Keanu Reeves' life. So I'm just basically pointing out that the Berserker comic wouldn't exist if it wasn't for my friend, possibly. But he drove that Cadillac right through all the flames and everything. But he had his gun in his hand as he was steering, so that anyone could see that he would, and he got him out. And then my wife saw Keanu Reeves at some concert. She went to visit a friend in San Francisco, like literally right as the pandemic was starting, because that was the first time I saw someone with a mask on, people getting off of the plane. And it's like it was right about January of last year. And Keanu Reeves was at this concert, and it was a terrible concert. It's that guy from Faith No More with Laurie Anderson. I hate Laurie Anderson. But anyway, my wife and her friends like this guy from Faith No More, but with Laurie Anderson, that's all going to be garbage. But anyway, so Keanu Reeves is there with his wife, and she just, my wife is not, she just goes up and talks to him and asks him if he remembers my friend. And he says, he was kind of like, oh, yeah, didn't he work? He kind of was playing it kind of cool for his wife that, oh, yeah, he didn't say, oh, yeah, that's the guy that saved me. But yeah, he remembered him. How could you not remember the guy that got you out of the LA riots? But I used to think he was just an idiot because, the way he acted in Dracula, I thought he was just a moron. But then I heard he's like a really nice guy, and that his movies since then have been good, So I guess that's like judging Jessica Lange from King Kong. She later corrected her inadequacies. Anyway, I could go on talking too long. Sorry.
Keanu Reeves was good, and I think it was as good as it gets because he was acting with Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson, so they kind of elevated him. It was like he reached in, got something that he hadn't had before, and now he just I think he's found his niche. He makes action movies, and obviously The Matrix was very successful. John Wick, the first one, I absolutely love.
I did too. I just didn't like the dog dying, but that's I don't like dogs dying in movies.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's motivation.
Yeah, that was the catalyst.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was.
I'm a sucker for those movies where the bad guys pick on the wrong guy, and they don't know it. I love those movies, like The Equalizer. Those type of movies. Magnificent Seven. Those
came out. Yeah, there was a movie that just came out, but it only played in theaters, so I doubt anyone saw it because all this stuff going on with what is his name? It's in Better Call Saul and
Bob Odenkirk.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Bob Odenkirk. Nobody. Okay, he was basically a John Wick type guy.
Yeah, the name is
Nobody. I want to see that movie. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to see that. Yeah. I forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
I would never have thought of
the name of it is Nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see that one too. That one looks really good.
And there's all these superhero shows that are on that I don't know the original source material, so I don't know. Like, is it Jupiter Rising?
Jupiter's Legacy.
Jupiter's Legacy. Okay, how is that comic and how is that series?
I know it's a Mark Miller comic. I didn't see the series; it's already been canceled. So,
right.
I heard it was decent. I didn't read the book because I'm not a big Mark Miller, how you pronounce it, fan, because he tends to, everybody is a shit in his books.
Oh,
And he did one series called Starlight, and it was kind of like when Magneto built the ship out of nothing but wood just to prove he could do it. Mark Miller did the one series without making his characters unlikable pieces of bleep, and it was really good. But everything else he's done has just been just almost kind of like you know what you're going to get before you even start the first issue more often than not. So it's
yeah.
never really been
And
my
there's a lot of TV series that are made based on comics that when I first saw them, I just thought, well, this artwork looks like it was done by an eighth grader, and I just put it back on the rack, and then it explodes into some huge thing. The Boys, we watched the first season of that, but I felt like I needed to take a shower after every episode. And there's a second season we haven't seen. And then there was what was the Umbrella Academy. I haven't ever read the comic, but I liked the first season, but we haven't watched the second season. Uh, Doom Patrol, we watched the first season. We enjoyed it, but again, it's just a lot of the seedy stuff that they put into it that maybe was in the DC revival, but and there was some great ideas. We liked it, but I like the '60s Doom Patrol. But then some of these ideas are fascinating, like a town that's alive that just moves around. I mean, it's interesting. But the second season started. A friend of ours was here, and we put on the first episode, and right away there's immediately like a sex scene, like a real uncomfortable sex scene, and perversion that. And it's like, why can't they just make Robot Man's mouth move? And what else?
Can I
There's
give
a
you a
lot
little
of
advice?
yeah.
When you watch The Boys season 2, when you get to episode 4, just watch that in the shower to save yourself the time of running to the shower after the episode. Trust me.
Okay. Did was was Negative Man's sexual orientation changed in the original comics, or is that
No.
done for the TV show?
No, I'm assuming because the actor playing him is gay, and it's an unofficial edict at this point that if you're doing a show, you have to include a gay character. So that was an easy, one to do because, like I said,
Okay.
Matt Bomer is gay.
All right. And then what else? Now, Stargirl we thought that was phenomenally well done, and no one talks about it. Nobody, it seems like everyone just assumes it's another crappy CW show. But I thought it was none of that politics in it, like zero politics, and there was zero perversion. It could be watched by a family, and it was just cool. And then the villains are like right out of a serial. They have an underground lair and masks, and it's right out of a. It's not like, oh, we're embarrassed because it's a comic book. We need to like change their costumes or their outfits to make it look more real world. The villains were like, and I loved it.
Well,
I don't know.
the first season was not done by Greg Berlanti. It wasn't part of the CW verse, like the Arrowverse as they call it.
Right, it was done for
See,
the DC
yeah,
channel. Yeah, that's where we
yeah.
watched.
Season 2 is so
Oh,
the jury's still out on what season 2 is going to be like.
right. What other superhero shows have there been? There's like a lot of. Oh, they made a Son of Satan series that came completely under the radar. I watched a few minutes of it. It was it exists.
If he continues to break up, I'd like to ask Dr. Silver Age, do you do anything besides Marvel and DC?
Yeah, I do Charlton. In fact, I got one here that I just got yesterday because I'm
back.
collecting the appearances of Gunmaster, so I'm trying to pick those up whenever I can.
Did you catch the broadcast we did with Charlton 66?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, I did.
Good.
Yeah, Steve's awesome.
Sorry, Grow too. I broke in there. I thought you were having trouble. So.
Where'd he go? Where'd everybody go?
It's all you.
Oh, it's all me.
If his computer died on him again, he will be back in 10 minutes, and you have to carry the spotlight now because there's no one to probably switch us back.
Oh,
there he is.
Well,
there he goes.
Okay. Oh,
there he is.
Rotating around. Well, you want me to show some more Braving the Bold?
Sure. I just want to grow to know. I thought you were having trouble, and that's why I asked a question.
I was. Thank you. Yeah. My Wi-Fi's real spotty, it looks like. Might be because I'm upstairs and the router's downstairs. I need to get some range extender working, I guess.
Has anybody seen the Teen Titans show?
Yeah, I've seen it.
I mean, I watched a couple of episodes just to see Hawk and Dove because I like those characters. But I don't know, he's kind of on the fence of it.
Well, my wife and I watched the first 2 seasons, and overall, I enjoyed it. I more than I hated it. With a few tweaks and edits, they could turn that into something that kids could watch. I don't like how they handled Starfire. Instead of painting her orange, the guy playing Robin, later Nightwing, looks right for Robin. I mean, he's really good. It's, when Beast Boy's introduced, they bring him right out of the Doom Patrol's mansion. I mean, it's the people know what they kind of are following the storyline mostly. Raven's a lot more kind of likable, more like a real girl. Yeah, I mean, Hawk and Dove, there were complete nudity scenes with them that were unnecessary to the furthering of the plot. Some of the violence was really excessive, with Robin, running bad guys' faces right through the broken glass on the shattered window of a car, just permanently scarring people. Stuff that you're supposed to be showing that he's been jaded and all this. I just, little tweaks. It could have been really amazing. What else did they do in that? Yeah, I mean, it's when they first introduced the Doom Patrol, it was really cool and much more quirky than in the Doom Patrol's actual series. It was. I
did see that episode. Yeah.
The Swamp Thing show, I really liked the first episode. For some reason, we didn't get to finish that, but the first episode was like right out of the Thing, like just horrific images. So some of those series that were coming out of that DC channel, streaming channel, were good. There was a terrible one, animated Harley Quinn show that was really perverse and sexual, and it was done with the animation, sort of the animation style of the 90s series, and I thought that was terrible. Some people, I think, liked it.
That's a character I just can't get into. I understand what the appeal is for some people, but the character does nothing for me. The Harlequin,
I agree.
It's we were on a live stream the other night, and I was trying to think of, and Graphic Man apparently said it, but I didn't hear him say it. But I remember there was a Thanksgiving in the 80s when they opened the comic stores on Thanksgiving because a new graphic novel was coming out, and everyone was excited about it. It was called Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
And I wound up later just selling that to this guy I knew that ran a bookstore. That was where they had the Joker in a wedding gown, and it was very clearly established that he was in love with Batman. And then, of course, DC goes with these people, put out these alternate, graphic novels like The Dark Knight, and they say, well, let's just keep that in our canon. Catwoman being an ex-prostitute, or all of this, and I think it ruins the whole fun. I don't want Catwoman to be an ex-prostitute, and when they established the Joker as being part of his motivation is that it's really that he hates and loves Batman. So when they did the TV show, they wanted to establish a Batman that belongs to all eras. So they had cars in the 30s, and it wasn't just based on the Tim Burton movies. They had him look like a 50s Batman, and they had the colors right, the gray suit. But so they established Harley Quinn as a girlfriend. So the Jokers, I think that's why they did it. And then she wound up blowing up and becoming huge. But that Harley Quinn movie, my wife wanted to go see it. That Birds of Prey, that was a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
That was a low watermark, and I couldn't.
Yeah, I had no interest in seeing it.
Did your wife
I
share
didn't
your
either,
opinion?
but my wife wanted to see it. We had free tickets, so I had to go. But I am very interested in this new Suicide Squad that James Gunn's doing. And what's
I am too, only because I want to see Peacemaker.
Didn't you post a picture on Facebook earlier today of the action figures for that?
Yeah, I had it on my header. So they had done action figures. They're going to come out with a wave of action figures. So I'm going to get the Peacemaker one because I like the character from when it was a Charlton character.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I want to see it.
Right. Well, they're apparently people are real confident about that character because they've already filmed the first season of a TV series. So I guess they think is going to be the breakout character of that movie. And James Gunn, despite I wish he'd never done all that stuff on Twitter because that was really uncomfortable and kind of hard to defend. Unless he was just really just trying to make fun of the Hollywood industry and their predilections, but doing it that much makes it creepy. But I really think his movies are good. I think he really loves comics and is regardless of what you think of him, he's putting love into them. The Guardians of the Galaxy. And he did a movie called Super that I thought was phenomenal about a guy that becomes a superhero, and he uses he doesn't have any superpowers. He just has like a hammer or something that he hits people with. It's hilarious, and then it has all these references to you guys know who Fletcher Henderson is. I think that's the name of the Golden Age artist that draws this insane. You don't know who that is?
I don't. I'm not.
Let me see if I can share. Let me see if I can share the screen and look up Fletcher Henderson to show you. He had this weird style of drawing that you've seen it before. It's people consider it to be like the Plan 9 of comic history. Yeah, he was born 18. No, it's not Fletcher Henderson. He was a band leader from the 20s. Tom Smith's probably laughing at me. What is his name? It's not Fletcher Henderson. It's Fletcher something. I swear. Let me look.
Hey, while you're doing that, good doctor, did you mention you have some Brave and Bold to show?
Yeah.
No. You want me to continue?
I'd like it, yeah.
All right. I got continuing on. This is the number 53.
Oh, very sweet.
Adam and Flash. I love this color. The colors on this cover. I mean,
Yes.
and I like the. I gotta admit, I kind of like the non-Batman team ups better a little bit than
It was. I think it was
Batman
a nice change of pace.
Yeah,
Very good.
I mean, and I like some of the Batman ones
Sure,
too, but
sure.
and then this is number 54. If I can get it right, there we go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
The-
Very, very, very nice. And Gratu, you can go ahead and look that up if you want. I just thought we'd kill
I've
some
got
time.
it.
Okay, good.
How do
Go
I
ahead.
how do I share the screen again? I don't know how to. Hold
it's
on.
your fourth-
What do I hit
your-
again, Graphic Man?
Your fourth button from the bottom.
Fourth one
Which-
that says share. Okay.
And then you go to that
share
window.
screen.
Yeah. And select whatever
Hit the
window you
middle
want to
one.
look. And it'll bring it in like it's one of your guests on your stream. And you treat it like a guest.
Okay.
And then you give it the full screen or make it one of us.
Okay.
So, Doctor, you're into Carlton as well.
yes,
Do you have any Harvey?
I love the superheroes, the Charlton action heroes. So I got the Captain Actions, the Thunderbolts, and the Judo Masters, the Fighting Five, Peacemakers, all those. I was lucky enough to get all that stuff in the 80s when you could get them in the dollar
That's
bin.
right. That's
You
right.
know, so I was very, very lucky that way. And so I that's why I say I always loved those characters, and I really liked the Peacemaker. So when I saw that they were bringing that character into the movies, I'm like, oh, I'm there. If for nothing, no other reason, just to see him in that uniform. I'm not a huge John Cena fan. I am a huge wrestling fan, but I've never been a huge John Cena fan, you know. But I'm going to give him a chance. Who knows? This might be the part he's born to play, like Ryan Reynolds was born to play Deadpool, you know? So
Well,
we'll give that a shot.
Maybe sometime you and I can get together and we can talk about how NWA was better than WWF.
Absolutely. Yeah. NWA, definitely more believable. Love the NWA. Yeah. Didn't get to see it until the early 80s. Definitely got to do that.
Yeah. All right, Gratu, what do you got for us?
So, you know this guy? Fletcher Hanks. I was calling him Fletcher Henderson. He was a 20s band leader. But there's all these references to the artwork of Fletcher Hanks in the movie Super. I don't own that movie. I'd like to. But yeah, this is like one of the most insane artists. There's this whole that guy has put out of his art. But yeah, he's this golden age artist that's insane.
I describe his art style as underground, yet it's made for the mainstream. Very good stuff.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before. No.
Yeah, cool. This guy Fletcher Hanks, and it's just cool that there's a movie that references this this art. It's a movie called Super, and then there's this girl that I think works in a comic store that wants to be his sidekick, and she's nuts too, and she's played by that actress that was an X-Men that's now a guy. I don't remember.
Ellen Page.
Ellen Page or Eric Page or whatever it is.
I don't keep up with movie stars.
But anyway,
Except the ones
new to
behind
me.
me, the good old days.
you got to trust me. The movie Super is hilarious, and I don't think many people have seen it. But if you're into comics, you've got to see this movie called Super by James Gunn. He made it before he became famous. And,
I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check that one out. I
it's
see you behind Mr. Graphic Man there. Underdog. Loving the Underdog. Loving it. Talk about great theme songs for cartoons. That's one right there. Love that.
Yeah. Underdog had two great themes. There was the
Doggone
theme
right.
that starts the show, but then there's that theme that's in the middle of the show that's amazing too. Different theme.
That was awesome. I love it. Love it.
And when I was
Can't get enough of
young,
those 60s cartoons.
when I was young, Underdog was the best, and I didn't realize he was always rhyming. Had I watched that as an adult, that would have irritated me. But everything is a rhyme, and you don't notice that so much. You're just, wow, this is cool. Then you start to use your analytical brain. You go, hey, wait a minute. He opens up his ring, gets out a pill, and he's a drug user. But it was good fun.
Well, what about the Japanese show Eighth Man? He smoked a cigarette to get his powers.
Tobor.
Tobor. In order to turn into the android, he basically it was a cigarette.
There's an action comic from the 70s where somebody gives Perry White some special cigars, and he smokes those, and he's just as powerful as Superman. And he realizes it, and he saves one cigar. He puts it in his wall safe. So I don't know if he ever went back and used it in an emergency, but
I remember that story.
There was an episode around there was a comic around maybe 1976 that only a few people know about, that I've heard Howard Stern mention it, where they explain, and I don't know if it's ever been put into official canon, but they explain why it is that nobody can figure out that Superman and Clark Kent are the same person, and they explain that the glasses, which come from the glass on the ship that brought him as a baby, distort light so that when he puts them on, his face looks completely different to anyone looking at him because the glasses distort it. And I thought that was a really clever explanation, but it's never been referenced ever again.
And so apparently he doesn't think about it, but he's always hypnotizing everyone to not recognize him. Yeah. And for some of our viewers, if you want to track that issue down, it's a kind of a close-up of Superman holding glasses, and he's talking to Lana Lang on the cover. I don't know if it was action or adventure.
Yeah. Was I right about
That's
the time period? Was it about 76?
I thought it was 79 or so, but
it could be.
Breen would know.
They did that in the 60s too, something similar.
The one I'm thinking about is more after Bronze, I think.
Yeah, and they kind of abandoned both of them right after they did them, because that was kind of what DC did in those days. They really didn't follow through on anything in the Superman books. Yeah, my uncle didn't like those new jazz guys like Coltrane and Davis and
yeah. Then there's also this new Superman show. What do you guys think of that?
I watched the first two episodes. It was good. It doesn't have any of the nonsense that is dragging down a lot of the other Berlanti shows,
right.
But I realized at some point, I think I've aged out of the CW.
Yeah.
It's just you tell yourself, I'm not going to ever be that guy, but then so many of the themes. I'm not even talking about the social justice or the just the themes I mean they're going after an audience that's 40 plus years younger than me. And whereas I appreciate the superhero stuff, it's the rest of it is just kind of becomes a slog to me, because I said, I mean, I said I can't relate. It's
Yeah, the actor's pretty good. It's just he puts on a Superman suit that's so obviously padded because he's so slender, when he's not in the suit. And I'm sorry, Lois Lane, the actress that's playing her, looks like his mom. She looks like she had a few years of meth addiction.
she's a good actress, and she was really good on Grimm, but I don't see Lois Lane when I see her.
No.
And Dr.
But yeah,
Silver,
she's a good actress. It's just
I see you're a Space Ghost fan like I am.
Oh yeah, big time. Big
Because
time.
of all your images.
I'm a
behind
big Hanna-Barbera superhero guy.
you. Do you have the
I
gold
was-
key Space Ghost
Yeah.
#1 and only one? Do you have that? I'm
No.
impressed. Boy, that's great.
Yeah.
but
It's not in the best shape,
Hey, that's okay.
but I got one.
I've never seen one.
Isn't it just
I've
called
also got
Hanna-Barbera
the gold
Superheroes?
key. What's that?
Say again.
I thought it was Hanna-Barbera Superheroes, or was called something like that.
I have
Where's the
those, but there was a
Yeah,
Space
it's a
Ghost
different
#1.
theory.
Okay, I have those
Yeah.
too. I guess I don't have Space Ghost #1 either.
On the cover, it's Race Bannon punching out somebody. He's kind of center stage.
Oh, okay.
I also have the Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossible gold key #1 shot. So, which is
I have that.
that was pretty cool because you don't see that one. You don't see that one too often, man. It's like holy mackerel. That's wow. You don't see that.
The great
I was
thing
lucky. A friend of mine actually gave me that. What's that?
The great thing about Johnny Quest is my son, 17 going on 18, does not care about any of the comics, any of the pop culture from my generation. But if I have on a Johnny Quest cartoon, he will stop what he's doing and he will watch at least one with me. His favorite is that robotic spider that comes in and starts whacking people right in the head with the. That was pretty scary.
This looks like Tom Smith is thanking you, Graphic
That's cool,
Man,
though.
for your comments on the stream yesterday. He says they were very funny. And let's see.
Well, I hope I was trying to be funny.
Doc, I see that you have issue #1 of the Spectacular Spider-Man magazine in the background. That was a great black and white monster story.
Yeah, that was a good book. Yeah, that one and the next issue after that, it was good. So,
Yeah. Which one of them? I have both of them. One of them was later used in the continuity of the color comic with some alterations.
The first
Was
one.
that the first or second issue?
I thought it was
What?
Yeah, the first
I thought
one
it was
had
the
to do with
second
a
one.
corrupt politician, and they ended up using him in, I think, issues 115, 16, something like that. Because the
Yeah,
second
they
issue was a
changed it.
Green Goblin story that was part
Right.
of continuity.
Yeah, and that was reprinted in some giant size 50-cent comic, I think.
It was
in color.
annual or giant king size special #9.
I wonder why that black and white magazine didn't succeed. Was it the price? Because Spider-Man was a popular character.
I'm going to guess if you want to pick up Spider-Man back then, you want to see that beautiful red costume.
Yeah.
And if you wanted the newspaper strip, which is black and white, you could probably find that. But I'm guessing. maybe price too, because I'm sure it wasn't 12 cents or 15 cents.
Probably
It was
35.
35.
Yeah.
Yeah, 35. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when you're a little kid, you go, I can have 2 of these or that. Sometimes you go with 2 of something.
Yeah. Well, because Mad
Absolutely.
was 25 cents at that time. That was pretty pricey. I think Famous Monsters was 35 cents at the time. Yeah.
I remember the big choice used to be when you'd get 2 quarters and DC would have the 50-cent books, the special square bounds there. Now, are you going to get, do I want to spend both quarters on that? Or do I want to get some of the 2.25 cent or 12 cent, whatever it was? And I'm like, oh, boy, that's a tough one.
But wouldn't it be nice to have that choice again?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. Man, oh, man. Be nice to have a lot of the choices we had back then.
Yeah. I'd like to have some of that content as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a difficult childhood for me. I'd go into a convenience store, and they've got a brand new Pac-Man machine, or I could get a nice Slurpee with a Spider-Man cup, or I could get a great comic book, and sometimes you'd settle for a candy bar, but had a limited budget when I was a youngster.
Yeah. I was lucky because once in a while we had a stop and go convenience store that my grandfather used to go and get his newspapers. He'd pick up a newspaper for himself and my dad every day. He'd go down and get the newspapers about 3:00. So once in a while I'd ride down with him, and when I did that, he would always say, "You want to pick up a fun? Go ahead." So he would buy me one. So I usually would make sure it was one of those 60-cent spectaculars there, 100 pages. Oh, yeah, here you go, Grandpa. Man, so whenever I get those, or I come across them when I'm looking through my long boxes or whatever, those hold special for me of my father, because, man, probably half the ones I had, so I don't know about you guys, but a lot of my collection, a lot of my Silver Age collection, and a lot of my early bronze, again, it's like a snapshot of my childhood. I can pull out a book and I can remember where I got it from and what was going on in my life then. You know what I mean? And it usually, most of the time, it's a comes with really great memories.
And then there'll be songs the same way, and there'll be songs that I even associate with a particular issue of Spider-Man. Because I can remember being in my dad's Ford station wagon, my older brother driving me, and the first time that like a certain Carpenter's song, Top of the World, came on the radio. First time I heard it, and then I remember getting a particular comic, all this, a lot of memories all associated, that come back and about certain things, certain smells too. Like I love the smell of Play-Doh. My wife hates it, but I noticed there's actually perfumes made that smell like Play-Doh. So I just love that smell.
So how old were you guys when you started collecting?
Who wants to go first?
I was probably somewhere around 6, 7 when I got my first comics, and when they gave me, it was a Green Lantern comic book. I can't remember what the number was, but I've got like 3 of them now, and it was like instant love. It was just like, these are so cool. And it was, for me, it was, I had already fell in love with superhero cartoons. So it was like, what? I can get new adventures of other superheroes? What? Here's my money, you know? So it was an instant love for me. And from then on, boom, I couldn't get enough of them. I couldn't get enough of them.
Yeah, I was probably 4, and
That's
my
maybe
older brother, my oldest brother, I was the youngest, had a train layout, and I was fascinated by that. And he bought Model Railroader magazine, and then I guess there was a comic book called Choo Choo Charlie. It was based on the advertising mascot for Good and Plenty candy. So I think that was the first comic that I bought, and it didn't survive, but I bought it later from eBay or somewhere. I think I have 2 copies of it now. I remember that, and I remember actually walking to a store and buying it with my own money, like on my own, on a military base. Laurel, the first, or maybe the only Laurel and Hardy that DC put out. So I think that's about 1970. And I remember, the Harvey comics. And so about 4 or 5. And then I really got into Dennis the Menace and the Monster comics. And I was buying Monster, Frankenstein, Werewolf by Night, Tomb of Dracula. It was mainly the first Spider-Man comic I got. It was because it was a werewolf comic. It was Marvel Team Up, where he's fighting Werewolf by Night. And then I guess at the very beginning of 4th grade, when I got the Marvel Treasury Edition #2 that reprinted the Fantastic Four Galactus story and all these other cool Jack Kirby, Stan Lee stories, then I read that, was amazed, and then I went back and started reading the few Marvel hero comics that I had that my mom had bought for me when I was sick, and I didn't really have that much interest because they weren't monster comics. Then I went back and read them, and they were great too. So yeah, then I got into Spider-Man and all the other Marvel heroes, and joined that Foom Club, and then the Origins of Marvel Comics came out, where Stan Lee said he did everything, and I remember all that. So I started with the Marvel Monsters first, and whenever I was sick, I was telling Dr. Silverage earlier, my mom would go out and buy a few comics and bring them home to me. And so that's why I had that earlier Spider-Man comic that I later went back and read. And I remember she bought the Incredible Hulk 181, which was, I think, the very first appearance. 182 is the one everyone wants, right?
That 181's the big one.
Okay, then I have 180,
Yeah.
where he's on the last panel.
Yeah.
But it's still not it's still pretty good that my mom had taste enough to pull that comic off the spinner rack. And I remember she bought Man Thing #1, which used to be, I remember back in the 70s, I think that was when I looked in the price guide, that was the most valuable comic I had. But so yeah, I'm sorry, my birthing person. They don't want YouTube to get upset.
4 years old for comic books, but before that, I had all kinds of little paperbacks, Dennis the Menace, Charlie Brown's. The little pocket books we kids just had all that. And then before that, I would always beg my parents, read these Sunday funnies to me in the newspaper. But yeah, right away. And then I would graduate from the funny animal, Daffy Duck and stuff to the big boys. Fantastic Four seemed to be the best when I was a youngster.
I feel weird. I didn't start till I was 13. So I'd already been through baseball cards, Charlie Brown books, and monster magazines. I was fascinated with those for a while, and I think that was towards the end. That was kind of like a logical segue into comics from that.
Yeah, because they advertise comics in the back of Famous Monsters. It's a natural progression. Yeah.
I was an only child, and so books were basically my playmates. And if anybody could draw, I was enamored with them.
Yeah, I ran into people that love comics in elementary school, and then we formed a club where we made our own comics on notebook paper during class. And so I showed those, I don't know, last summer, and my they're horrible, but yeah, we were doing our own version of Dracula Lives and all of that. So yeah.
So what was it? Ask all three of you guys. What was it when you started that? Was there like one book in particular where you just said, "Yeah, this is for me"? Obviously, something was because we're all still here all these years later.
Well, to me, it was that Fantastic Four that really got me. That Marvel Treasury edition, where you see the art big, but earlier than that, man, I really loved the Three Mouseketeers, which I didn't know was reprints from the 50s, but that was amazing. And that artist, Sheldon Meyer, I believe.
Mayor,
I
think.
Mayer. Relatively recently, I realized that if it wasn't for him, Superman never would have. He actually pulled it out of the trash can and said, "Hey, you guys should give this a second look." And that's that's if he hadn't have done that, it would have stayed in the trash at national publications. So yeah, he's great. And then I discovered last night Tom Smith. I went like 5 hours. Tom Smith is this amazing genius that's collected every humor magazine basically that's ever been printed. I thought he had all the comic book ones too that were imitations of Mad in the 50s, but he's just really magazines. But he went through every single issue of Sick yesterday. We spent hours. And Sick, when it first started, when Joe Simon was doing it during the 60s, was a really rich source of parody of what was happening in the world, and you learn a lot about. It's like a great art was. I knew Sick from the 70s when it was just really grade Z, but Sick was kind of more adult, aimed at beatniks, I think, and then it got really into the hippie counterculture movement, kind of making fun of it. But since they were on the cover of every issue, you knew that a lot of hippies were buying it. Because but yeah, he showed this one issue that had a lot of the superheroes, very obscure ones drawn, because Joe Simon had been part of that. And then when Sick in the very late 70s, when it was part of Charlton, they had the first feature in, like, he showed about, you have to go hours into yesterday's broadcast to see it, about the first feature in about 4 or 5 issues. They were using Stan Lee as a superhero called Ego Man. And it was just this merciless parody of Stan Lee, and they did it issue after issue. And the editor at the time sounded real familiar to me. He said Sick got really good towards the end, even though it looked really bad and it was like worse than the typical Charlton paper quality. And I where do I know that name from? And it turns out, oh yeah, he was the guy that Arnold Drake, right? That did Doom Patrol and Jerry Lewis and all the comics that I loved. But I remember seeing those issues of Sick on the newsstand and flipping through them and like feeling like I was like looking at something I shouldn't, because they did parodies of Laverne and Shirley and Three's Company, Charlie's Angels, but they did them like Tijuana Bibles, where everybody was like, the clothes were off and everything, like they were really perverted, dirty. And so this guy has a little bit of a dirty old man in him, or at least that was. I said, well, maybe his editor was making him do it, and he says, well, no, he was the editor. So, and then they have the whole strip where this girl's just basically didn't have any clothes on, and she just in different positions, so you don't quite see. It's just weird cheesecake, but yeah, they just tore Stan Lee around 1979 to shreds in that magazine, and then it kind of stopped, and it might have been that Stan Lee was not happy or something, but I was just fascinated by the people that were working at Charlton that were trying to get their revenge against Stan Lee and their sick magazine. But
remember Funky Flashman with Kirby's Stan Lee parody?
where was that at?
It started in his Fourth World books, but when they brought him back after Jack went back to Marvel, but that title, Secret Society of Supervillains, he was the kind of like the de facto main character of the bad guy side. And yeah, because in the Fourth World stuff, when he was used, he also had a sidekick called House Roy, who was obviously Roy Thomas, because Jack wasn't happy with either one of them at the time.
Yeah.
And Funky had a big head of hair that, of course, came off like Stan's, and
yeah,
it was pretty scathing. Sounds like the one in Sick was worse, but
yeah, it was pretty extreme.
Dr. Silver Age, did you have an answer to Eric's question earlier?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. The ones that I can remember, aside from the one that started me collecting, was the Green Lantern one, but that came later, a little bit later on. The ones that I first remember seeing in that Rexall drugstore were these ones here, and they were over a little period of time, and it was this one right here. Because I remember thinking, why are two good guys fighting? Why are two good guys fighting? You know, again,
You obviously never saw Marvel back then.
No, you know what? I don't remember seeing Marvel. I remember DC. These were the first ones I saw, and they had the go-go checks.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm in love with the go-go checks, you know. And then this right here, the Neil Adams, that just changed the way I looked at things. Just that cover there, and this made me fall in love with the Spectre character.
Yeah,
I'm like, I had to know more about the Spectre character, you know. But so yeah, those three there are probably the earliest I think I can remember seeing them on the rack.
I wish I had a real spectacular answer for you, Eric, but we'd go around the garage sales and I'd find all kinds of coverless comics. And I kind of had several of those aha or gotcha moments. I remember getting an old Detective Comics with the cover off. The art was not very good. It was, we've both commented before, Frank Robbins, I believe is his name.
Mm-hmm.
Where Batman's going up against a guy that makes him play Russian roulette. And he's jerry-rigged the gun to make it all the way to 6 bullets. And as a little boy, I thought, my goodness, these stories are weird. But then, of course, I got, I've told you before, I got the FF49 where some kid had painted Sue's hair red on the cover. But I knew something very incredible was going on with this Galactus fella. But the Hulk probably gave me a lot of my aha moments. But I just had several of them. Nothing really that stands out.
See, I think because since I started so late, I think what got me was about 2 months in was the Superman Spider-Man tabloid.
Okay.
And I thought, yeah, I'd bought a Superman and Action Comics, couple of each, and I for some reason hadn't started on Spider-Man yet. But I saw this, I said, "Man, is this hobby always going to be this cool?" No, but it was cool enough to where I was just, I mean, I was crack baby hooked once I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, those Treasury
Graphic
editions.
Man.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Hulk, and it just so happened this I've already mentioned several times I'm a Hulk guy. Probably guys would get sick of hearing me say that, but this one right here was the book that I got that hooked me on the Hulk.
Nice.
I got this one, and it was just like, Hulk's my guy. You know, this was probably, if not my first Marvel, one of my very first Marvels. So, I'm sorry, whoever I cut off.
Oh no, that's
The story in Hulk #6, where he's fighting the Metal Master. The first 5 issues are Kirby, but then all of a sudden Ditko does the 6th issue, and I was impressed as a little kid that the Hulk can think to make a gun made out of cardboard, or looks like a gun, and the Metal Master cannot make his gun explode because he can control metal, and it's not metal. Then later, in a Fantastic Four cartoon, Reed Richards pulls the same gag on some bad villain or alien, where he tricks him. It's not metal, it's cardboard. I don't remember the cartoon's name. I think of it, but I really enjoyed Hulk 6. I can imagine some guy back then getting Hulk 6 going, I can't wait for issue #7, and there is no issue #7. So, but a few months later, there was the Avengers. Really? And the Avengers, I think that replaced the Hulk title. That's kind of like Hulk 7 and Hulk 8.
You mind if I answer Zombo's question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there was a Brave and the Bold 6-issue miniseries with Batman and Wonder Woman, where they were off on some war world, and apparently 1,000 years passed. They were all, when you went to that planet, you were immortal. They were there for centuries or whatever, but in real time, they were only gone for about 3 weeks. Marvel did do a Marvel team up recently, but it was Kamala Khan, the new Ms. Marvel, and they did a story where she teamed up with Spider-Man, and it was a Freaky Friday where they switched bodies, and Spider-Man was running around as a teenage girl tee-heeing over lip gloss.
Oh boy.
So that's one of those be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. I'm good with the old series. Thank you.
Yes.
I made when I you know, if it was going to be awful. They were going to like continuing the real comics. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. Anyway, I started reading the Ultimate Comics once I became certain that they weren't going to just change to only that version, that it was just a different version that they were doing. And I was enjoying them. And I remember they had an Ultimate Marvel team up. It was really clever.
Uh-oh.
I think I was talking about it the other night. Am I back?
In and out.
No, you are.
It was X-Men versus, and Spider-Man teamed up, and it was and you read it, and Spider-Man was never in his costume, and the X-Men weren't in costume. They were just on a food court in a mall talking to each other, and I thought it was brilliant, because Spider-Man was with Mary Jane and they were talking to the X-Men, and she was asking what it's like to be a superhero. and Wolverine knew that this was Spider-Man because he could smell that it's Spider-Man, and so it was all cat and mouse conversation. I thought it was written very brilliantly, and it was an issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Marvel Team Up, and I thought that's a clever way to do it instead of just being a fight. Because when I read the Marvel comics, I always liked it when I couldn't wait for the fight scenes to be over and to get back into. I liked the parts where Spider-Man wasn't in his costume when he was Peter Parker. I don't know why. It just was interesting. The parts in between the fights, which is probably why that Mexican comic company decided, to hell with you guys. We're going to keep Gwen Stacy alive and keep going with a separate trajectory.
The Stan Lee era of Spider-Man. I'm with you. I absolutely enjoy the Peter Parker scenes more than Spider-Man because you got to see his growth and development from the nerdy bookworm to the confident guy with friends and girlfriends. And I thought the way that just unfolded over several years was great stuff. Unfortunately now you don't get much of the alter egos of the characters because all the books are too busy doing one event on top of another. And when they do, problem is now a lot of the comic book writers grew up online and not learning how to talk to people in real life. So they're not as good with there's a term that a guy I watch on YouTube he coined, said they don't human very well. And you do find that a lot with some of the not as good newer writers.
Hey, Eric, let me take you back. I agree with your Peter Parker assessment. It was around issue number 8 where Spider-Man is really having to think. These guys bring in this robot computer. If I remember, it was colored green, and it was the ultimate brain, and it would memorize every move Spider-Man's making and then fight against him. And that's where Spider-Man, wearing the mask, he has to really outthink this thing. But I think before that, all the Peter Parker stuff was better. Those first 7 issues, or 8, counting the Amazing Fantasy. But that number 8 doesn't get a lot of credit for Spider-Man really having to use his brain going up against a computer brain. And all that's happening in this high school, of all places.
Yeah, and you remember what else was happening at the high school that day?
Was there a fight with him and Flash?
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, Flash thinks I'm finally going to get to whip up on puny Parker, and they're fighting, and he's dodging everything easily, and and they show that and this is great Ditko art. He's going to throw a punch, and it shows him like this. He's just going to do that. And Flash looks away at the last second, and just that little tap knocks him clean out of the ropes, or clean through the ropes. And of course, everybody, says he did it while his head was turned, so he doesn't get credit for winning the fight. And then he has to go off and fight the brain.
Yeah.
And I think there's even a printout that says something like that he ends up having to luckily sees before anybody else, and he pockets the teletype, and then I think the big brain is destroyed or something, and so it's not going to get out. But they call that their tribute to teenagers issue.
But let me tell you, if you're in a boxing ring and the referee has said, "Oh, go ahead, approach," and both are coming at each other, you better not turn your head. And I think it was bad of his fellow classmates to say, that was a cheap shot or something. Hey, he's coming at me with gloves. I'm going to hit him, whether he turns away at the last second or not.
Yeah, because I think the mechanical thing, whatever that was, made his presence felt and caught Flash's attention. He happened to look at that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Dr. Silverlight, you still have FF12 handy. I was looking at the coloring of that and comparing it to the Marvel's Greatest Comics. Of course, the reprint's going to really pop with bright yellows and stuff. Oh, no, FF12. You grabbed the wrong one.
FF12.
Oh, but we'll take that too.
Oh, any day.
There we
And
go.
he showed this earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was watching and drooling.
You are right. The shading is perfect. A lot of good darkness on the shoulder and his head. Now,
Yeah, I just love that.
if Grau2 can show this, see where when they did the reprint of Marvel's Greatest Comics,
Yeah.
he's more of a green, just kind of a solid
Right.
green. It's
Right,
more
straight
colorful,
green.
but your FF12 is better with the shading. Being in a cavern, he would be shaded pretty good too.
And they did the same kind of thing with the thing too. If you look, he's shaded differently too.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what you're seeing, I think, is Marie Severin's influence, because she colored the EC comics, and you see that kind of shading in the EC comics. And from a story I heard or read, there was a new colorist coming on at Marvel, and he was saying, and she said, "Why are you doing it that way?" And he says, "Well, Stan Lee told me to do it this way." And she says, "Don't listen to him. Just do it this way. It just trust me." And so that's why the Marvel comics of that era are shaded and kind of muted, and then when they're reprinted in like Marvel Triple Action and all those 70s, or when they reprint the Avengers covers later, Stan Lee wanted them to be doing back then, but maybe he was scared of Marie Severin, but and the comics were selling, so he probably didn't question it. But once, I guess, Marie Severin was no longer doing the coloring, he got them to do this bright, super bright coloring, and I think that's what it is. But yeah, it looks so much better with the shading.
I'd have to check the Masterworks to see how they colored it. I would hope they'd stick as close as possible, but maybe they tried to spruce it up. You never know.
Yeah, I don't like the coloring should match identically to the original comics. And then the DC was doing all these when they were first doing it started with Marvel was doing the Masterworks, and then DC started doing theirs, and it looked like they were just, the art had just been traced. And I thought the lettering can't have been that bad in these Golden Age comics, but I had no reference to look at Superman number 12 or something to see if it looked right. And I think they just thought that they needed black and white masters to print these books, and now they have this intelligence just to they have the technology to photograph the pages. So if you don't have I guess they thought if you don't have the original art, you've got to create original art by having someone in China or Hong Kong trace it. And I think that made a lot of the Golden Age art look kind of like it was really primitive to us growing up in the 70s, when it really didn't look that bad to kids in the 40s, I think. Yeah, I don't know. And then I'm not sure. And then Greg Theakston, the guy that kind of did the Betty Page's little digest magazine, and he was real into Betty Page, and I think he was the one that discovered her and found her. He had come up with a new way of reprinting old comics, but he had to get an actual gold do.
Whenever he streams on my channel, I lose him about 10 or 12 times.
Am I back?
Yeah, you are.
Yep.
Anyway, it's got to be my Wi-Fi. But there's this. He did this process called Theakstonizing, where he would bleach. He would have to take the pages out of the original comic and put them into some chemicals that would bleach all the color out, so he would have just the black and white original. And then he would use that somehow, photograph it to make so that they could print these new editions of the early Captain America or Human Torch stories, but now they don't have to destroy a real comic to do that. But anyway, some of those early DC reprints look shitty because of that. Okay,
Doctor,
wow, that's great. Let me make
do
them bigger.
you have the Plant Man on Strange Tales?
I do.
Isn't this guy a hoot?
They have a copy.
If
There's a
you could
copy of that
control
at
plants,
the store I work at.
if you could control plants, you could hire yourself out to be a master gardener. You could go to all these rich houses, do their landscaping for them. But no, I must attack the Human Torch because that is my goal in life.
You gotta wonder sometimes what goes through the villain mind. Oh. You asked me earlier, and I never got to finish answering the question. And I'd like to know what the rest of them think or what they do. As far as what I collected, aside from Marvel and DC, and I said Charlton, but I also collected I collected pretty much anything with superheroes. You know, the Seaboard Atlas, collected ACG, MLJ, Archie's, anything you can think of that had superheroes. I went for Skywald, any of those, you know. But I'd be curious to hear what else everybody collected.
Funny animal, especially Donald Duck emphasis. My dad would get Classics Illustrator for me while I was in the quarter bins looking for Fantastic Four. And I never minded that because, okay, well, it's a comic book. Then when you're older and you're bored and you look at a Classics Illustrator, that's not too bad. But I romance, you name it. And the older, the better. And Breen was hoping in one day that somebody would make a Cincinnati Reds comic book, which they never did.
No,
Cincinnati Reds. Oh, I can't talk about Cincinnati Reds. I was a Red Sox fan in '75.
Well, I said that was the best of both worlds for me because I lived there for 5 years, and so the Red Sox are the only team that I will. The Red Sox are the only team that I will, when they're playing the Reds. That's the only time I do not root for them. And I got to tell you, as great as 75 and 76 was, I think 2004 is right up there with it because, as everybody knows, Bucky bleeping Dent turned into Aaron bleeping Boone, turned into 19-8 to go up 3-0. And then, with apologies to Vince Scully, in a year, the improbable, the impossible really happened in 2004.
Absolutely.
And as we put Gratu to sleep there, because I know he's not a sports guy. Guys, I got to go. Guy I didn't think was going to stream tonight. Actually, our Friday night reading, we're actually going to do. So,
what's the subject?
Well, what we do is we take old comics. Like last week, we read the first appearance of Archie.
Right. What's tonight?
I don't remember.
Oh.
But we
this is a cold reading.
Oh yeah, we pick characters and we ham it up. I said we're the world's worst Mercury Theater.
Yeah, you and that public guy.
we have no Wells or Cotton or Warwick or anybody. So, but if you guys are done by then, check us out. We're probably going to go around 10. If not, thank you for having me on. I see you are now Senator Orloff.
Yeah.
Dr. Silverage, it was nice meeting you, and Graphic Man, always a pleasure.
Nice to meet you, Eric.
I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
And Doctor, I'm being called away to supper. It's great to see you face to face.
It's nice to see you.
I've been wanting to just contact you, but I will be contacting you shortly, probably through the YouTube comments. So, but I'm glad Gratu was able to get a hold of you. This has been great, and
I've had a blast.
If you liked the episode with Charlton, I've been calling it Carlton. You'll have to forgive me. Charlton 66. We're going to do another round Wednesday, and we're going to show more oldies.
I wanted to ask you because I heard you say Carlton the other night.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times, and I'm like, there's got to be a reason why he either doesn't like him or, I mean, doesn't like Charlton as a company or something. Because every time he says Carlton, there has to be a reason.
No disrespect to them. I love the company.
I just thought it was so funny.
His guest the other night on his 5-hour extravaganza, his guest Tom Smith noticed that I said Carlton as well, and I typed in the comments I meant to say Charlton. So hopefully, if you ever hear me say that, just superimpose Charlton over that. But I love Charlton. You probably saw I showed a bunch of them. But we'll be doing some oldies and some Archie ripoffs. And I think Strange Life will be joining us as well. So hopefully, the same time Wednesday.
Awesome.
But we grow up.
Cool bean.
We grow up seeing these names of comic creators and the names of companies, and we don't have anyone that we can talk to about it. We don't know. So if you're used to pronouncing a name for 30, 40 or more years, it's real hard to stop. I mean, I remember what was I just remember their word. It's like Harry Truman was very well educated. But he grew up in a little farm town, but he was at the library all the time reading Plutarch and all these ancient Roman writers. But everyone around him was a farmer. He couldn't talk to anyone about that. So he mispronounced words all the time, and a lot of the people would make fun of him for it. But it's just like, how do you know until you've heard someone say it? It's just like, we're just all now starting to figure out how to pronounce John Buscema. I used to call him John Buscema when I was a kid. In my mind, reading it. But then I see his granddaughter. And someone's interviewing her, and he says her name that way, and she responds. And then I think I saw some panel on YouTube where he was being interviewed, and okay, well that's how he responds to it. Pronounce that name. But how did you know?
I learned the pronunciation because I saw that video, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, where Stan Lee is with Buscema, and he introduces him as that, and Buscema doesn't correct him. So I assume they know, and that's how I pronounced it. But
you're a Star Trek guy. You have to have
old
seen
Star Trek. I do not like the new stuff, the old stuff.
Well, I mean, I'm an old Star Trek guy, but here's the animated Star Trek.
Okay.
Shatner was in the studio recording it. I'm sure you've heard this, and if not, it's all over probably the internet. But he's reading a script, and he says sabotage instead of sabotage, the way most people pronounce it. And the guy said, Mr. Shatner, would you
there you go.
And he's really mad at the guy. He says, I say sabotage. And he's really mad at the guy telling him to pronounce it differently. It's kind of like him saying civilizations. I don't know if it's a Canadian pronunciation.
Well, but as a little kid, I probably met a Carlton and a Charles. And when you come across this name, Charlton, the brain says, how do you pronounce that? And I probably just went with Carlton all these years, but I know better. I can't correct myself. So
I was starting to question myself. I was thinking maybe it is Carlton because maybe you don't pronounce the H.
Yeah, we should all do it my way.
The same thing. I was thinking the same thing.
I could be a trendsetter.
How often do people talk to each other about Charlton Comics? I mean, never.
No.
I mean, it's like, how often have I talked to someone in my life for 5 hours about Sick magazine? Never. I haven't even talked to someone for 5 hours. And you got to look up. Tom Smith has YouTube channels with music. I think one channel is called the Lime Popsicle, and he's got 30,000. It seems like 30 100,000 subscribers. He doesn't talk about it much, but he's an expert in popular music and all these girl singers, the Angels, and all these from the early 60s. He knows all of that the way Eric Breen knows those baseball stats. It's like he's just really uncanny. And I love that old music, but a lot of it I've never heard because I wasn't alive then. I mean, I know a lot more than the average person about it, but he's just a font of knowledge. I'm fascinated by this guy, and I'm going to get him on as much as possible. He wants to show every single humor magazine. So I figure I can do that. Maybe on my stream, I could do that. But when he's on other people's streams, he could show the best stuff. But I think I may be one of the only people that's just loving that. But
To the
I
good,
don't know.
to the good doctor there. I didn't plan on jumping into the stream. But I thought I might as well, because when I saw you, I said, well, I gotta meet Dr. Silverage, but I'm wearing a lousy yellow T-shirt, and I ran to the closet. What do I got? And this is the first thing I bumped into. This old thing. I haven't worn this in probably 20 years, but I should have worn my Space Ghost costume, but that would get kind of hot with the mask. But maybe I could do that sometime. But it was good to meet you. And I'm going to go to the late supper here. So you have a great time. I can't wait to meet you again.
It was nice to meet you as well. And we definitely got to do the NWA WWE.
Yes, you betcha.
We got to do that.
You betcha.
I think I hear my wife's family's coming in downstairs.
Okay.
My wife's family have come in from Houston, and I think I hear them downstairs because the dog's barking, and I hear little kids' voices, which normally I don't hear. So I probably need to go down there too. But yeah, I intend this Friday night thing to be a party. So I wanted as many people as possible to come in. But so yeah, I know. Don't ever feel like I want as many people as possible because I think it's fun. I don't ever get to talk.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for inviting me. I greatly appreciate it. I had a blast, man.
Good. And Gratu has used up half of his time.
Hold on a second.
He's only got 20 hours a month, and he's probably already used up half of it. So. Anyway,
okay, cool. Well, I'm here.
Hope to chat with you soon.
All right,
Sayonara.
You got it.
Happy drawing.
Hold on one second, Doctor. I'm talking to people on YouTube. Yeah, I could probably eat something when you come. Then we can go ahead and get something to eat. So yeah, so just all right. Take care. See you. Bye. I got this old friend of mine. He comes every Friday night. He's this. Have you heard me talk about him?
Oh yeah, yes.
Oh yeah, he's he can fix anything.
Mattress.
Yeah, I've already done that. I already did that. But I was working in that room moving boxes, and it was chaos, and I had to move all these long boxes today before I could do that. So that was a nightmare.
I wished I lived closer to you because I would love nothing better than to come over and help you organize that because I really enjoy doing that. But unfortunately, I live way up here in the frozen tundra.
Well, we're seeing mansions that we could sell our house here for and move to houses in Idaho or West Virginia or all kinds of places where you can live in a Victorian mansion like the Addams Family, and but
live like a king.
But I mean, it's probably you're in a little town, but I'm not that enamored of this town, so whatever. So anyway, I guess I better go down and see what's going on with them, and then my friends headed over. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we could any time you want to come on and we could plan a. I think I'm probably at. Let's see. I probably have about 10 hours left until like, what month is this? Until maybe till July 10th. I think that's when it starts over, because I did about almost 5 hours on Sick Magazine yesterday, and then I played around with it. That probably took up an hour, and we're at about 4 hours now. So I'm probably used about 10 hours, but yeah, we anytime. I'm gonna. Yeah, this is a lot of fun just to come on and talk to people.
Yeah, I had a blast. And I've sent on Facebook, in Messenger on Facebook, I've sent you my information. So anytime you want to get a hold of me. So
great.
I greatly appreciate it. I had a ball, man.
Yeah, I'll send you my phone number and email too and all that. So yeah, I just haven't responded yet. All right, well, take care.
You
I'll
too.
see you soon. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
So, let's see what people are saying here. Smiley face. And Eric says, this was a lot of fun. Yes, it was fun. And this is really cool, because I've dreamed since I was 4 years old of doing a radio show or a TV show. So it's kind of neat. I never. So yeah, StreamYard works pretty well. So I guess I will sign off and be seeing you guys. Take care.